Hello and welcome to NXTGEN Racing, the home of clean and fair sim racing for all. Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another round of absolutely raucous racing in the one and only NXTGEN Racing Touring Car Championship Season 8, as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC known as iRacing and powered by Doble Motorcycles. We have made our way down under to Australia. It is time for us to get our double header underway to see out the season. For there are 10 rounds in this championship and we are here today for round 9 of 10 of the one and only Sandown International Motor Raceway. A circuit more synonymous arguably with V8 machinery rather than four-cylinder machinery, most notably with the Sandown 500. This circuit, located in the suburbs of the city of Melbourne, is a circuit not to be underestimated, as on paper you would think it's a rather straightforward circuit, only 1.92 miles in length, and in terms of the number of corners, a rather admirable 13 corners, many of which are very quickly interrelated. However, this circuit has garnished itself with a reputation of being a drag strip style circuit, in the fact that between its corner sequences are two straights of approximately 900 metres in length each. What that means is when our drivers make their way out the corner sequences, they've got to get the throttle down as soon as possible to roar their way to the next set of corners, and along the way look to outpower their rivals as they make their way towards the heavy braking zones, at which point it'll be battle on the brakes all the way to the corner apex, and whoever leads coming out of it may just find themselves leading the way to the checkered flag. It'll be classic old school style racing here today at Sandown, and that's what we always love to see, and that's what many local fans have enjoyed over the course of the years, where it be virtual in real life at Sandown, and we've got plenty more to come today. And well, it could be a style of racing that could shake up the field and definitely see some championship rivals either have their championship dreams get even more real, or alternatively see them quashed and put back into the pack. But how will it all play out? That's the question we're here to ask today, because we're going to be setting up what will be the season finale in a week's time at Bathurst here at Sandown. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, as we all welcome you to this live broadcast from Circuit Side, we'll welcome to you whether you're tuning in via one of the two official NXTGEN Racing media platform channels, where it be on YouTube at youtube.com, search for NXTGEN Racing, and hello to you guys and girls tuning in via YouTube, including none other there than Whiskey Runners Racing, who says good morning all, because I do believe that is Daniel Fritz, or at least the official Whiskey Runners Racing team's account based down under in Australia is the team, so therefore it's their morning whilst it's our evening here in the UK. We also do have the broadcast available on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/NXTGEN Racing, and welcome to you guys and girls tuning in via Facebook, including Verano Esports' account there. And while I'm doing very well, thank you Verano Esports, and I hope you're doing well, and wishing the best luck to your drivers for tonight. Indeed, we look forward to seeing the Verano Esports and the Verano Academy drivers out there in full force, particularly in the AM class with Marcel Fritsch, who'll be looking to try and take the crown here today. And then we also do have the unofficial broadcast available on Twitch at twitch.tv/TX141. Well, who is TX141, as we welcome our Twitch viewers? Well, my name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on, and I shall be your host and commentator for this evening, and indeed for the entirety of this season, as we charge our way towards the conclusion. And speaking of our schedule for this evening, times in Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Coordinate Time, UTC, and well, in just under what will be 17 minutes time, we'll be heading out onto the circuit for our 15-minute qualifying session, after which we've got 3 16-lap sprint races, started off with race number 1 at 8:15 this evening, then a brief breather before returning at just before 9 o'clock this evening for race number 2. Then we rinse and repeat, but not without that all-important partial reverse grid draw in the build-up to race number 3, which is scheduled to get underway at just after 9:45 this evening. But that is our schedule for tonight, and let's take a look at the calendar so far and what still lies in wait. And as we can see, we've only got 2 slots left in the calendar. Last time out on the 28th of January, we wrapped up January with our first ever visit to the Thruxton circuit, the fastest circuit in the United Kingdom, and it did not disappoint with some absolutely brilliant battles up and down the field, and rain which mixed its way into all 3 races, and definitely meant that it was a very challenging set of races where some drivers absolutely excelled and was the static conditions, but they started to find themselves in trouble with the wrong tyres perhaps being selected, particularly in race number 1, where it's all about the wet tyre rather than the dry tyre, whereas in the other 2 races, it was all about the wet compound. But there's no sign of any rain today, indeed sunny Australia delivering, and it's the 4th of February 2025 at the Sandown International Motor Raceway. And after today, of course, we have our season finale with our feature race special, the second of our feature race special for this season, in round number 10 on the 11th of February at the Mount Panorama Circuit, but more equally and more commonly known as Bathurst Bathurst there. We'll have our 20-minute sprint and a 60-minute feature race to wrap up the season. But as we make our way then into this round, how the championship standings stand after what is 8 rounds of racing. And we start off with the overall Drivers' Championship, and here we can see he is on the course of the precipice of history right now. On 867 points to 782 of his rival, Mikey Doble stands ahead of Jaroslaw Cebula, knowing that today he could potentially take that 4th title with him to Bathurst if he gets things right. However, Cebula is not out of the hunt yet. He knows he's got all the work to do today, and he's got to try and stop the rot that's crept in over the last couple of rounds, with Cebula being the leading driver in the first 5 rounds of the championship, but Doble will find a way to strike strong in the mid-portion of the season, particularly in rounds 6, 7 and last time out at Thruxton, and that's the way the fortunes are gone. Meanwhile, on the hunt for P3, it's Adam Delman who leads the way ahead of Andrew Pike, as the Sim Racing Collective driver gives hunt and chase to the SRO NXTGEN Gold driver. Benjamin Bukowski sits in P5 on 646 as well, much like Pike, but only behind based on result countback. And there's only a further 8 points there to Jamie Dory. In fact, my mathematics is incorrect. It's 9 points there, and Jamie Dory wrapping up the top 6 with a relatively comfortable advantage, with 21 points ahead of William Guthrie. Keep in mind, of course, the points now starting to take into account the single drop score for this season, and therefore our drivers have got to do a lot more work in order to improve. Isaac Doble, Dan Mould and Ben Altrier complete your top 10, and behind was the full tilt Motorsport Alliance driver. We have in P11 Nick Clewins, best of the rest down 498 points, the best part of what is 17 ahead of Gavin Gardner, with Lee Hornet sitting in P13. He's only ahead of your leading prime driver in the overall standings of Stuart Winnes based on result countback. Now we have Alex Meredith in P15 ahead of Ben Gregory of 422 points, and 50 points between Gregory and Winnes here. Well, between the 2 prime drivers in the overall championship, there's a bit of pride on the line here, but we'll shortly show you what the prime class looks like when you take all the points refactored for the prime finishing positions, and there the story is a little bit different. To complete the top 20, it's Sam Van Olst ahead of Joe Doble, and there are further 6 points to Tom Davidson and Kieran Smart completing the top 20. But outside the top 20, from the 368 points of the Track Scotland driver of Smart, we do have there what is the 364 points of Michael Lees, a driver who continues to try and push his way forward despite a bit of misfortune last time out at Thruxton, but also knowing that he's gradually grinding out those results, which he's coveted and deserved, ahead of Wayne Douglas by 6 points. It's Matthew Sheraton, Daniel Downing and Reece Watt completing the top 25. From P26, it's Alan McCain, 17 points ahead of Russell Fowler, with Sam Bradley and Lewis Delmont, the 2 SO and NXTGEN Gold drives close together there, and a special mention to Lewis Delmont, who I caught up with in the build-up to today, and he's been promising that we can expect plenty of fireworks from him. He's been looking very fast in what is pre-round practice earlier this week, and therefore he could be the man to watch across all classes, but particularly in Pro-Am. Sam Smith sits in P at 30 on 254 points. He's the best part of 44 ahead of Toby Prosser, and it's Duncan Ray's Jake Pitt, and then Andy Fox, the man who broke his run of bad luck last time out Thruxton with that great performance in race number 1, but races 2 and 3 returned to a sense of normality, and I hate to say that, given the fact we never want to see a driver in major instance, but Andy Fox's season ever since round number 4 has seen him taken out in all 3 races of each round in an opening lap instant. It is not a statistic that any driver wants, but right now Fox really having to dig himself out of that trouble, and well, we hope that perhaps he can have an even stronger day today. James Pascal sits in P35 ahead of Gabriel Yilmaz, with Lewis Mason, Eduardo Gonzaga, Marcel Fritsch and Mark Seitz completing your top 40, and intriguingly there you can see how Mason is your leading AM driver, incorrectly shown as a prime there, but he's your leading AM driver alongside Gabriel Yilmaz. 117 points back to Yilmaz, who's the leading AM in the overall Drivers' Championship, ahead of Mason, Gonzaga and Fritsch, but the fortunes are very different when we come onto the AM points shortly. And outside of the top 40, we have Matt Emmons ahead of Jonathan Collins, with Jack Osborne P43. We haven't seen the Atomic Esports machine on the grid for a while, which is sad, given the fact that the livery on that machine is an absolutely brilliant one, and of course we're missing Osborne. Josh Brown sits in P44 ahead of Luca Monroe. Then we have Dylan Hunter, Daniel Fritz, Sammy Ariba, Sean Dobie and Craig Tillotson completing the top 50, with Anthony Hilton P51 ahead of Andy Chell by a single point, Michael Kurtler, or William Kurtler we should say, in P53 ahead of Kevin Smith, with Jonathan Berry, Callum Murray, Gabriel Papaconstantou, Gilberto Struck, Josh Boot and Shane Abbott completing your overall Drivers' Championship standings. And then coming on to the Prime class, and here we can see how the story changes when you look at the Prime points, in the fact Stuart Winnes leads the way by 60 points over Ben Gregory, and in theory Winnes could wrap it up today if fortune really favours him. However, However, one thing you have to keep in mind is that Ben Gregory cannot be counted out here. He has put on some absolutely brilliant performances this season and really is digging in deep to keep this championship alive. Kieran Smart, he could play a big factor as well as Track Scotland Hunter 1-2 in this championship. Smart acknowledged earlier in the season that he's left it too late to get close to the top two. However, given the fact he's in P3 and only 5 points ahead of Russell Fowler, his number one goal will be to make sure he maintains that P3 and puts the pressure on Gregory and enables his teammate Winus to run away. But Fowler may have other ideas because we have seen the Vrano esports driver really come alive in the last couple of rounds, and Sam Van Olst meanwhile sits in P5. Now he's got a little bit more work to do if he wants to steer clear of the rising charge of the Aztec Racing driver Matthew Sheraton in P6. It's a further 3 points to Reese Watt in P7 ahead of Alan McCain, with Michael Lees and Sam Smith completing your top 10. And then Lewis Delmont in P11 on 673 points. I get the feeling he wants to finish inside the top 10 this season, and we look forward to seeing what gauntlet he can lay down today ahead of teammate Sam Bradley, with Duncan Rise, Jake Pitt and James Masasgal completing the Prime top 15. And then to wrap up the Primes, it's Toby Prosser ahead of Matt Emmons, with Gilberto Struck, Jack Osborne and Anthony Hilton completing the Pro-Am 20 drivers. And then coming on to the AM class, where my mind was drifting to next, Marcel Fritsch leads the way on 911 points, and again could wrap things up today given the run of form he's had over the season so far. However, Thruxton proved to be a fly in the ointment for the Vrano Academy driver, and he'll be hoping it's just a blip and not a sign of things to come in the final 2 rounds of the season, because otherwise the Aztec Racing pair, Gabriel Yilmaz and Lewis Mason, 3 points between the two of them, and with what is this top 3 being separated by only 80 points, could we see a sudden incremental swing over the course of today and a massive swing at Bathurst between the 3 drivers and Aztec Racing perhaps make it a 1-2? Well, between all that, Jonathan Collins meanwhile sits in P4 on 729 points. 6 head of Sammy Ariba has moved into the top 5 after Thruxton, and it's Mark Sykes, Eduardo Gonzaga, Dylan Hunter, Josh Brown and Andy Chell completing the top 10. And again, keep your eyes out for the American driver Dylan Hunter in the fact he was absolutely flying at Thruxton and was unfortunate not to bring home a win in race number 3, but he'll be looking to go for podiums, if not the top step of the podium in each and every race today, given his ferocious pace. Craig Tillerson sits in P11 on 580 points, the best part of 50 cent ahead of Sean Doby, with Kevin Smith, Jonathan Berry and Gabriel Papaconstantou completing the top 15. And to wrap up the AM standings, it's Callum Murray ahead of William Kurtler, with Daniel Fritz, Luca Monroe and Mark Kent finishing off the top 20. And then coming on to the Teams Championship, here we see at Next Gen Peak right now, all they need to do today is get a good score in the board and they will be your 5-time, 5 in a row Teams Champions in the NXTCC. They've been unstoppable so far, and on 1,857 points, it is a gargantuan gap of 455 points from them to Doble Sim Racing. Conversely, Doble Sim Racing right now find themselves on the back foot, having to fend off the charges of SO Next Gen Gold and Full Tilt Motorsport, and there's a sizable 300 points or so, in fact 326 point gap to the Sim Racing Collective in P5, where Next Gen Orange with Risky Runners are closing in on that top 5 slot, and TSRC will be trying to hold on as long as they can, with P7 going the way of Goldwyn Motorsport at the moment it would seem, but only 10 points between them and iRacing Esports, and that'd be rude for us to count out Track Scotland and Aztec Racing, who could both play into that battle, given the fact they've got their own battle for P9 and P10. And the 697 points of Aztec Racing is then 589 points to JWM Motorsports, who are trying to make a last gasp to get into the top 10, but they've got a lot of work to do over the last 2 rounds. And it's the Vrano teams of Vrano Esports head of Vrano Academy, with National Racing Team and Atomic Esport completing the top 15. SJC Racing with 991 Racing sitting P16 ahead of Quartermass Motorsport. And it's Mellow Motorsports, 888 Tech Racing, and 287 Motorsport with Autofocused Motorsport Media, who complete your team's championship standings. But coming from the standings then to our circuit for today, we are here in the suburb of Springvale in the city of Melbourne in the state of Victoria in Australia for the Sandown International Motor Raceway. A circuit consisted of 13 corners, as we can see thanks to the brilliant circuit map provided us by iRacing, and thank you to iRacing.com for not just the circuit maps but the absolutely fantastic sim racing platform. And as our drivers roar the way on around here, it will be 2 drag strips and what will be a series of corners between. For as they roar the way down towards turn number 1, the opening left-hander, plenty of room on entry, but it narrows very quickly on exit, and they'll find themselves going 1 wide through the chicane at turns 2 and 3 before quickly snapping on the brakes at turn number 4. Out of the left-hand right-angle corner, it will then be a charge up the hill from turn 5 all the way through to 6, where it's a sudden plummet downhill through the S to turns 7, 8, and harden the brakes into 9. And there as the drivers make the way out the left-hand right-angle corner once again, and it's in the brief sprint through the kink of 10, down towards the chicane at turns 11 and 12, where it's flat out for the kink of 13 to complete lap and do it all over again. And that's why we've got 16 laps, because these laps are going to come thick and fast with an average lap time in the region of about 1 minute 15 to 1 minute 16 under race conditions. Let's come on to our rules. Well, this is a fixed setup series. Setups have been provided ahead of each and every round to our drivers, indeed ahead of every race. Driver classes were finalised back at the conclusion of round number 3. And in terms of how we set the grid for the races, the race 1 grid is set based on results of qualifying. The race 2 grid shall be set based on results of race number 1. So whoever takes victory in race 1, they line up and pole for race 2, and we set the order accordingly. And the race 3 grid shall be a reverse grid based on results of race 2, but with the caveat that the reversal position is drawn live from the commentary booth between P13 and P23. And for 2 rounds in a row, we have seen the numbers 6 and 12 come out together to make it top 18 reverses. Will we see it a third time, or will we see a different number? That is going to be an important question, because that could really change the complexion of race 3. Now, each driver has one fast repair available in each race, and each race shall conclude after either the allotted lap amount of 16 laps or 30 minutes, whichever expires first. Coming on to race stewarding, an independent race director shall be stewarding the races always for track limit infringements and the deployment of the safety car. And we can see the penalties for the warnings there, ranging from a warning all the way through to a drive-through penalty, and that must be served within 3 laps. Meanwhile, instance between drives will be reviewed post-round. We also do have the ongoing run of the success ballast, which has proven ever popular and kept the race as close as possible. And it's been applied on a race-by-race basis overall in the Prime and AM classes. And we see a success ballast going into today in terms of qualifying in race 1 based on the championship standings prior to the round. And we update it iteratively over the races as a result of the previous race results. And, well, we can see the success ballast values on the table there. We're not going to go through them all. Do save a moment and take a screenshot there if you do want to go through all those values and see who's going to be taking all the ballast. But as always, Mikey Doble will be taking that 56.1 kilograms of success ballast, as he is the overall championship leader, and, well, a difference there of 8 kilograms between him and Jaroslaw Cebula, who stays P2 in the championship at this time. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we head back to circuit side. That's enough rules, regulation, everything in between. And, well, let's look to the man who's making his way on around right now as he does so. And this is none other than Mikey Doble for Doble Sim Racing in the number 88, and knowing as the BTCC season is not too far away that he'll want to go charging into it with an NXTCC crown on his side. Once again, a 4th crown, and, well, he'll become the first 4-time champion. He's the only 3-time champion versus the 2-time champions of both Jamie Dory and Wojciech Swierdowicz. But right now, Mikey Doble throwing everything at this in order to go one step further and really raise the bar. Indeed, many a driver today looking to raise the bar. There's no doubt about that. And I suspect as well we're going to be seeing plenty of strong performances from the likes of what will be Michael Lee. So we'll be trying to chase after what will be that top 10 in the Prime class as much as possible. And as he makes his way on around there and up towards what will be turn number 1 to do another lap. Well, the fastest Prime out there at the moment, and the man who said to me in the build-up to today things were looking very positive for him, there's Lewis Delmont, and he's the fastest Prime at the moment by the best part there of what is a 10th over Duncan Rise. But then again, practice is one part of the session, qualifying is another, and I can tell you with this short circuit and the best part of what is going to be 40 cars out of the circuit when qualified, when you do the mathematics, it's very little space between the cars in order to get a good qualifying lap in. I suspect some slipstream would be very helpful between drivers in order to put themselves all the way up the field. But as our drivers get themselves into position, we do have what is some penalties going into today, and we will be seeing a number of drivers not take part in qualifying and start from the pit lane for race 1. And these do include what is Jonathan Collins, who you'll see in the AM class, and also Matthew Sheraton, Kevin Smith, who carries over a penalty from round 7 as he wasn't on the grid for what was round number 8 last time out, and Wayne Douglas as well takes what is a qualifying ban penalty. And we see Wayne Douglas here back in action today. He was unfortunate to miss out at what was the Thruxton circuit last time out. He wasn't able to make the round as much as he would have loved to, but he's on the grid today. But he will be starting from the pit lane for race number 1 and not allowed to take part in qualifying, given that qualifying ban that's hanging over him from what was round number 8. And in fact, let me correct myself there. In the fact that it's a carryover from round number 8, so the last time he was on the grid was at Montreal, and, well, for Kevin Smith, while he was last on the grid in round number 6. But as Douglas makes his way in towards turn number 4 here, will get himself all set and ready to go. And in the AM class, well, we talked only moments about Lewis Delmont leading the way in the Prime class with Marcel Fritsch after the difficulties of what was Thruxton last time out. Well, given the sunny conditions today, there's no rain in sight as far as we're aware for all 3 races today. Well, that does mean that for the Austrian driver in the number 7, he can absolutely put the pedal down in that Honda Civic Type R, that Honda Civic Type R, and feel confident that things will go his way, or will be able to get the feed, and he won't take anything for granted. Indeed, no driver should take anything for granted in the NXTCC, because as soon as you do, that's where it normally all goes wrong, and a number of drivers in the past have definitely been struck by bad luck right at the last moment. As we've only got 1.5 minutes left before we do go into qualifying, we're going to let our drivers focus on getting themselves set here, given the intensity of this circuit and the fact the walls loom up very large and very close indeed. And we do say hello to a few more of you in the YouTube and Facebook chats respectively. Starting off there in what is the YouTube chat, we also do say hello to Katie Kitty Eames, who's wishing the best of luck to Verano Esports tonight. And well, good evening to you, Katie. I hope you're doing well. We also say hello there to the Verano Esports account on YouTube. Also to Mark Winus, who's hoping for some great racing. And I suspect as well in the background we'll be cheering on one Track Scotland driver in particular, his brother Stuart, but I think he'll also be cheering on what is his teammate Kieran Smart, and I get the feeling it's quite a close-knit group in there, Track Scotland, the Scottish drivers all together. And we also do say hello in the YouTube chat to Mark Kent, the 40 Motorsport driver, not able to stay on the grid for this season, but we're very happy to have him tuned in, week out, giving his perspective on the racing, and well, he'll be cheering on his teammates at 40 Motorsport, including this man, Ben Gregory, who today needs to deliver a big score to keep in the hunt. That's Stuart Winus, and therefore the 40 Motorsport Elantra driver will know nothing less than a victory over his rival will do. He needs to finish ahead and get the big points. We also say hello in the Facebook chat there to Mike Barber, who'll be cheering on the Verano Esports drivers, I do believe. And well, now having a beer, given the fact he's gone through a dry January, and congratulations to you, Mike. That takes a lot of perseverance, I must say, and a lot of self-control in order to do so. And well, congratulations, and I hope you enjoy that beer. We also do say hello to Lee Horn, who's tuning in. And well, Lee, we do miss seeing you on circuit, but at the same time as well, in fact, I do believe he's going to be on circuit there. As I look down, where's my entry list, and Lee Horn's there, so Lee confusing me a little bit. I thought he might have just been tuned in today. But without further ado, ladies and gents, when the checker flag comes out on practice, it is time for qualifying. And well, Wojciech Swierdajczyk led the way in the final practice, albeit only by a slender margin. And will it be even tighter margins in qualifying? Well, here we go then. 15 minutes of qualifying get underway. All the drivers immediately now begin to pile the way out the pit lane. It is very tight. They're coming out the pit lane. You can see how narrow it is. And as they all roll the way out with NXTGEN Pinks drivers of what is Jamie Dory, also Benjamin McCluskey and Jaroslaw Cebula, all coming out immediately in quick fashion. They want to be the first out there, but as the whole field makes its way down, you see Gavin Gardner there just interceded by Wojciech Swierdajczyk between himself and his teammates. Then you do have what is a little bit further back, that's Marcel Fritsch making his way for a few drives, bobbing and weaving there to try and get some early tyre temperature. They won't need to spend long getting that tyre temperature in, because as we do bring the weather up on the right hand side of your screen, we'll look at that ambient temperature, 26 degrees centigrade. Track temperature meanwhile carried over from practice, 47. It is a very hot circuit, and I believe this is the hottest circuit we're going to see all season, minus when we go to Bathurst if it's any warmer. And of course, given the fact that Australia is in the southern hemisphere of the world right now, we do model the weather on the real life weather going into the day of the round of racing. It does mean that Australia right now is in the peak of its summer period, and that's why we've got such contrasting conditions compared to where we visited over the course of the season, in the fact that we've typically been visiting circuits that are in their winter season, whereas here today we're definitely in the summer of Australia. And well, as a driver makes the way down towards what is turn number 10. Right now, Marcel Fritsch. Well, now in the Honda, those hot temperatures are not going to upset the car too much, because the Honda doesn't mind high track temperatures. If anything, it actually likes them to get those tyres in the zone even sooner. However, the cars that do struggle with those high track temperatures, the Hyundai Elantra ends, and we have seen over the last few seasons, as soon as the thermometer heads above 40 degrees centigrade, these cars, the Elantras, really start to struggle in the races for what is longevity on the front tyres, whereby in the final third of the race they really start to fall off a cliff, and even more so when you do have that success ballast, because you've got that extra weight being loaded onto the front of the car under braking. The ballast is placed behind the driver, given the fact we do the ballast using the fuel tanks in order to manage the success ballast application to each and every car. But the fuel tanks are behind the driver towards the rear of the car, but you can imagine all that weight shifts forward under braking, puts all that weight onto the front tyres, which is what you want to do on a touring car racing machine. And the fact these cars are front engine, front wheel drive, so you always want to get a little bit of weight over the nose whenever you attack a corner. And well, when you put all the weight over the nose, it does mean you get a bit of extra tyre wear. But as he roars his way up the hill and in towards what will be at turn number 6, well, right now for Smart, he won't be thinking about that. Neither will his teammate Winus, who's a little bit further back. The only thing they're going to be thinking about is getting the job done in terms of qualifying as well as possible, as he does have a very colourful car behind him. I believe that's a new livery for Dylan Hunter, the DH Racing driver, making his way on around there and down. And as they roar the way in towards the braking zone, well, let's see if we can get a little bit of perspective of Hunter's new livery. And there it is, a very nice livery on the car. It must be the number 29 Veloster, and we'll make his way in towards what is turns 12 and 11 and 12 and then 13 shortly, as he makes way through it, taking a huge skip and jump over the entry curve there and the apex curve at turn number 11. And I suspect that will be an invalidation of lap, and therefore he's going to have to do it again, but definitely very eager to make some early progresses. The first lap times come in, and the man who puts the best time on the board so far, Wojciech Swierdajczyk, 1 minute 15.442, but we have got a long way to go in qualifying, given the fact we're only at what is 3 to 4 minutes in. We've still got the best part of 11 minutes left, plus the final laps, and of course every lap our drivers do, the fuel is coming out the cars, the track is rubbering a little bit more, and they will gradually get faster and faster as our drivers continue to push deeper and deeper into the qualifying session. As he comes on down to the braking zone here from what is the left-hander of turn number 9. Swierdajczyk absolutely smooth and cool as a cucumber as he makes his way around there. And when we do see him at his best, he absolutely nails these braking zones. It really does look as though he's a ballerina in that Veloster. And that's not to besmirch on the fact that there's just so much grace in the direction change that he pulls off in the car. And that's why he is a 2-time champion. And really did take the fight to Mikey Doble in what was seasons 6 and 7. And, well, Swierdajczyk absolutely unstoppable in season 7, it had to be said. And Delmont was his main rival in the first half of the season, and there it was Doble and a couple other peers later on in the season. As more times coming in, Lee Horn meanwhile from going in the garage all the way into the car now, into P3 on a 15.594, so some more lap times coming in from our drivers as they continue the way on through. And Horn starting to up the ante a little bit here, starting to find a bit more pace as we go deeper and deeper into this qualifying distance. And we'll always want to watch out for Lee Horn. He's been one of those drivers whereby he has the ability to pull off magic in changing conditions. He really is a weather master. Indeed, you would liken him in the world of Formula 1 to the likes of Michael Schumacher or Jenson Button, in the way he just knows when it's the right time to change the tyre compound and when it's also the time to nurse a compound that's not necessarily ideal at the point in time, so whether he's on the slicks or the wet and the conditions are the opposite, but knowing that the conditions will turn in his favour at some point. And indeed that infamous first ever what was a dry to wet weather race at Suzuka back in season 7, and the fact Lee Horn in the end, by making that gamble to start on the wet, absolutely running away with victory when everybody else had to duck into the pit lane to put wet tyres on from their early slicks. But as he heads through there into the last couple of quarters, already our furthest qualifying session down, we'll only have slicks on today. He won't be having the wet tyre at all, otherwise they'll be absolutely torn to shreds. In fact, he will create a slick out of it by the end of a couple of qualifying laps, and Horn stays P3 for now as Dan Mould moves up to P5, and the SO NXTGEN Gold driver going down towards turn number 1. A very frustrating day at Thruxton after that huge smash between himself and Wojciech Swierdajczyk in race number 2 of the day, and really upset the tone for Mould. But he's back today with a vengeance to have a good day of racing, and we look forward to seeing what he can do today as he makes his way up through at turn number 4 and onto the back straight. But as he comes on out there, we do say hello to the Quartermaster Motorsport YouTube channel there, and we in particular we look to at Sammy Ariba as he makes his way up towards turn number 1, and we jump on board here with Ariba as he takes us around for a flying lap of the Sandown circuit from an Audi driver's perspective. So making his way down towards turn number 1, keeping the car over to the right-hand side. And you'll notice here, hard on the brakes, approximately 150 metres from corner apex. Trail braking in there, down to 3rd gear and back on the throttle as soon as he reaches the apex curb. Brings the car over to the left-hand side here in order to open up the turn 2-3 chicane. Just tap in at the apex curbs. They're very high, they unsettle the car. And then onto the brakes immediately again for turn number 4. Braking a little bit earlier. You'll notice how he crept up towards the apex when he could have perhaps gone in a little bit more aggressive. So Ariba there just having a little bit too much of an eagerness on the brakes as he now powers his way up the rise all the way through turn number 5, heading towards 6, and it is quite a long run here, 913 metres up towards turn number 6 compared to the 870 metres coming out the final corner down towards turn number 1. And as Ariba makes his way in towards the downhill left-hander of 6, now into 7 and 8, mounting those curves and immediately straightening the steering out and braking on the apex of 8 to set up turn number 9, down to 34 miles an hour at the apex there, the lowest speed corner on the circuit. And now coming through the kink of 10, keeping the car to the left-hand side, straightening the steering wheel there and cutting 10 off as if it's a straight piece of road. And now for 11 and 12 he goes, 60 miles an hour at the apex there, through the left-hander to complete the lap as he comes through the kink of 13. What's it going to be from Sammy Ariba? He's down in P at 33 currently. Can he find a bit of improvement in that Audi RS3? And the answer is, by the looks of things, no, he can't that time around, but he'll be looking for a little bit more as he heads in towards turn number 1, given the fact he's fighting for a top 5 in the AM Championship. No success ballast in that Audi, so therefore he's just got to try and find a little bit more pace. He's not being held up at this time by the weight of the car, and will mean whilst he's continued to try and push forward in the AM Class Master Bridge, we may have the lead success ballast, but right now this man is absolutely possessed to qualify well here. P16 provisional and pole by the best part of 6 places over Callum Murray. And with the SO NXTGEN Gold driver here, we was caught by surprise when we picked him up for what was a pre-race interview last time out at Thruxton, but at the same time we reassured him he's not the first one to be caught by surprise. But what he was also saying to me in the build up to today was the fact he's really looking forward to coming here to Sandown after what was a good good day at Thruxton, but he felt as though whilst things did go well at certain points, there was also a bit of misfortune, and he was hoping today that he's able to really show the pace he's got for SR NXTGEN Gold, the newest member of the team, and bring a lot of what is sponsorship to the team as well. And right now Murray, as he makes his way up the back straight in towards turn number 6, where he's absolutely flying out there, and I'm sure the SRL banner will be flying higher as a result as he roars his way down now in towards turn number 9. But onto the racing, oh goodness me, just snapping loose there, just a small tinker with the steering wheel versus the brakes, and into the tyre barrier. He'll tow to the pits immediately, and well, that shows you how hard he was pushing, but that's what you've got to do in order to try and take that pole time off of Marcel Fridge, given the fact that Murray is 1.3 tenths of a Fridge's time in the gap between P22 and P16, but we'll have to wait to see whether we can get back out there. But of course, a reset to the pits and a tow to the pits means you put all the fuel back in the car, so once you do get fresh tyres, you've now got a car that's heavy again, and you've got all the work to do once more. But meanwhile, in the prime class, well, a man that said he was looking absolutely blazing quick in practice, and he's continued to show that right now, is Lewis Delmont as he tucks into the toe there, with his SRL NXTGEN Gold teammate Dan Mould as they make them across the timeline. And Delmont right now in P9, well, he is, I do believe, the fastest of the two Delmonts here, as Adam Delmont, I can't quite see that on the time stands at the moment. I get the feeling my eyesight is deceiving me, but Lewis absolutely flying right now, and I get the feeling that Father Delmont would be proud as he heads in towards the next couple of quarters, and will make his way on through it. And Lewis Delmont absolutely attacking this circuit, really owning the Sandown circuit in the prime class, and that's what he wants to do as much as possible in order to try and put himself right up there. As we say hello to Unsolved Rider there in the Twitch chat, and also to Katie Heames in the Facebook chat, who's saying let's go Vrano. Now, speaking of the Vrano drivers, well, we do have what is Marcel Fridge, of course, on the AM provisional pole. He's in the pit lane currently, which I'm a little bit surprised at. In fact, perhaps putting on a new set of tyres. But in terms of our other AM drivers out there, well, Kevin Smith is in the 10th today, but he's in the pit lane currently, as he's not allowed to participate in qualifying because he does have a qualifying ban that lingers over him. In terms of Russell Fowler being here today, I can't see him on the entry list, unfortunately. So I do believe you're going to have to wait a little bit longer to see other Vrano drivers out here, given the fact that Kevin Smith in the pit lane. The only other one is Marcel Fritsch, who's currently having the car serviced. In fact, he's made his way out of the pit lane, and he's on an outlap right now, and looking to go even faster. Less than 5 minutes left on the session, but looking all the way back up to the very top of the standings. Well, right now, Wojciech Swiatek is the fastest on 1:15.442 by a single tenth over Jaroslaw Cebula, ex-teammate and well now rival, given the fact that Cebula went to NXTGEN Pink and Semper Racing, not in the grid up for this season as a full season team, and it was he roars his way down to the braking zone. Lee Horn, meanwhile, P3 only a further half a tenth of Cebula, as we see that a run wide, and that's Josh Brown who's taking the trip to the gravel. Very easy to do, as we do see the National Racing Team driver rejoin, and Brown, who was the leading candidate in the first 3 rounds of the season in the AM Class Championship, it's really fallen away over the last few rounds. Also, he's missed a few rounds which haven't helped as well. Very happy to see him back on the grid today, the Englishman, and looking to work with his Brazilian teammates in order to score big here and see if National Racing Team can end their season on a high down under as he heads across that timeline. P33 currently, but you never know what could happen as he continues to make his way into the late stages of qualifying. Coming on around and down through the corners, and as he does so in towards what will be turn number 1, will run him very wide there, but just about getting the car stopped in time, and as turns 2 and 3 bouncing over those curves, you can see the suspension recoiling over those very high curves, and while the Hondas and the Audis really struggle with those high curves by comparison with the Hyundais, and therefore that's one advantage the Hyundais do bring to the table. As meanwhile, speaking of a Hyundai flying high, Dan Mould now moves himself over to P2 there in the toe of the Sim Racing Collectors, Andrew Pike, I believe that is. Indeed that is, with Davidson being a little bit further around the field, but right now Mould is pushing hard and taking that P2, and that could be very important because of the fact that he'll be now ahead of Cebula, and Cebula will know it's not going to be as straightforward as potentially trying to go in to lead this race come the run to turn number 1. But will that be the way it stays, as every driver is continuing to try and just eke out a little bit more time? Tom Davidson, meanwhile, a bit further back there, pulls off a racing line for a brief moment, just slowing the car down there, I think trying to get himself set up. As you can see there was the Track Scotland car of none other than Kieran Smart, trying to follow in the tow and recognising at the last minute the Honda is not on a fast lap and just taking it easy. But meanwhile, one driver's not taking it easy. He's got the fastest of everybody in the middle sector, Gavin Gardner, who stays P8, and he makes his way onwards here, I think, for Gardner. In fact, he moves up to P7 as our time tower gets updated to 15.69 P9.90 when it is only 2.5 tenths from P8 all the way to pole. And well, one of the shortest margins of the season, much like at Not Killed, the top 27 separated by under a second. It is so very tight right now, and indeed literally a tenth could be the difference if you're what is Kieran Smart from starting P27 versus starting P25 instead, and well, 2 tenths, that's going to leap you all the way up inside the top 20 as Smart moves up to P25. As soon as I say that, so I get the feeling he's listening, and as the drivers continue on through, well, it's the Goldwyn Motorsport driver of Duncan Rise, and right now, while the higher placed Goldwyn Motorsport drivers, Andy Fox 2 places behind, but the Honda Civic Type R FK8 there at Moraes absolutely on a mission to try and go a little bit further, currently in P14, P3, what is the prime? Sam Van Olst a little bit further up, in fact, in P12, so Van Olst in the Audi RS3, showing the Audi's got what it takes, but it's a very interesting mix of cars inside the top 10. It's what is a Hyundai Veloster 1-2, then we've got 2 Honda Civics, then an Audi, then another Honda, then an Audi, then we do have another Veloster followed up by Honda, and then finally we do have a Hyundai Elantra in the form of Ben Altria. So therefore we've got all 4 different types of car and all 3 manufacturers inside the top 10. This isn't really a circuit that favours one particular car, even though arguably on paper, as always, we do normally say that the Hyundai Elantra is the fastest out there, given the fact that around this circuit as well, you have a lot of drag strips, and therefore it does mean the Audi will go very strongly down the straights, but conversely the Veloster plus also the Honda Civic Type R will work very well in the corners, particularly given those direction changes and also the heavy braking zones, and that's what levels this out and why there's no real one car that's going to do extremely well here. As Wojciech Swiatek comes into the pit lane, well, that is a statement of confidence here. He feels there's nothing more he can do. Well, that 15.355, but now as time heads into the final 20 seconds of qualifying plus the overtime for anybody who's on a lap, who else can improve here right at the close? Marcel Fritsch in the pit lane as well, the leading AM driver P17. Meanwhile, Murray is still out there, P22. So is Sykes P24. So is Hunter P28. In the prime class, Delmont is still your provisional pole sitter. He's out of the circuit. In fact, Lewis Delmont is currently making his way on around up the hills. The checker flag comes out in this qualifying session. We look to the start finish line. Here's Lee Horn, as we also see there Gabriel Yilmaz cross line, and Yilmaz does not improve. Horn stays P4. Meanwhile, we've got more times to come on in, including from what will be shortly Dan Mould as he makes his way down, as we've got a driver who's run wide there, and well, I think Mould in fact backing off a little bit. The driver who ran wide, I think that was none other than, I believe, Lewis Delmont getting it wrong, and therefore tucking in behind Mould, or was that all about the toe and just literally propelling that Honda out the way? Well, Mould did look a little bit tentative coming down through what turns at 7, 8 into 9, so I suspect this might be a lap that's not going to improve. In fact, he immediately pulls to the pit lane. Mikey Doble comes to line, and he was P5, he stays P5, but still it's a good qualifying position. He's only 2 places behind his rival Cebula with greater weight in the car as well. So for Doble, that is a win arguably. And well, meanwhile, we do see Isaac Doble making his way into the pit lane. Elsewhere, Jaroslaw Cebula, he's in the gravel trap there, not quite sure what happened. Mark Sykes cross the line, stays P24, doesn't improve. What about Lewis Mason? He's going to be one of the very last drivers here to set a lap, albeit as he makes his way around. That's Sean Doby in front, who we've missed for the last couple of rounds, but he's back in action. Great to see the ATEC Tech car. Well, Mason pulls into the pit lane. Can Doby improve from P31? And the answer in the end is no, he can't. As he crosses the line, he stays P31 or P6 in the AM class. So that is qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen. Nobody else is on a valid lap at this point. And well, it is Wojciech Swiatek who has taken overall pole position by 1/10 or just over a tenth over Dan Mould. Jaroslaw Cebula will line up on row 2 alongside Lee Horn, and Mikey Doble lines up on row 3 ahead of Dom Davidson. Meanwhile, P9 will be your prime pole sitter of Lewis Delmont, who said he was going to be fast here today, and he's proven that already. Can he carry that through into the race with his second place rival of Sam Van Olst starting P12 and Duncan Rise P14? There's Murray's making his way on through, and in the AM class, Marcel Fritsch has done exactly what he needs to do to start off qualifying. He has taken AM pole P17 by 5 places over Callum Murray, who starts P22. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It's time to head to the grid for race number 1 of the day. And as our drivers make the way onto the grid, this is how they'll line up for the first race in round 9 of the NXTCC Season 8, brought to you here at Sandown on iRacing by none other than the machinery powered by Doble Motorcycles. And as we can see, Wojciech Swiatek starting on pole for Semper Racing ahead of SO and NXTGEN Gold's Dan Mould. Jaroslaw Cebula starts P3 in what was a very strong qualifying performance from Cebula, no doubt about it. The NXTGEN Pink driver in the company of NXTGEN Orange Whiskey Runners Racing's Lee Horn. And then we do see Mikey Doble start his day P5 for Doble Sim Racing. 9, it's only up from here. Surely that's going to be his game plan. P6 is Tom Davidson for the Sim Racing Collective in one of his best qualifying performances of the season versus his teammate Andrew Pike. With Gavin Garnett lined up on the full row of the grid for Next Gen Pink in the company of teammate Benjamin McCluskey. Lewis Delmont with one of his best qualifying performances, in fact his best overall qualifying performance of the season at P9 there for SO Next Gen Gold and taking Prime Pole with it. Congratulations to him. His first Prime Pole of the season as well in the number 23, and the top 10 is completed by Full Tilt Motorsports' Ben Altria. Alex Meredith starts P11 for Next Gen Orange Whiskey runners. Watch out for Meredith in the fact he has been faster in previous seasons, but he's also had a bit of bad luck. Indeed, many of you may remember back in what was Season 5 when it all went wrong for Meredith in the opening couple of corners. Then P12 is Sam Van Ols for Goldwyn Motorsport ahead of the 7th row of the grid of Jamie Dory for Next Gen Pink and Goldwyn Motorsport's Duncan Moraes. We then do have Isaac Doble starting P15 for Doble Sim Racing ahead of Andy Fox, the Goldwyn Motorsport driver there, leaving it late to improve, but still keeping himself well inside the top 20. And then we do have Marcel Fritsch starting on and pole position in the number 7. The Austrian driver starts P17 for Rana Academy, and 9, this is the way you start to wrap up a championship. He's got the company of Michael Lees for JWM Motorsport P18, and then completing the top 20 is Joe Doble for Doble Sim Racing and Full Tilt Motorsport's William Guthrie. Andrew Pike starts today P21 for the Sim Racing Collective, finding a struggle here today in qualifying it would seem, but expect plenty from him in the race. He goes very well over race distance. Callum Murray starts P22 for SO Next Gen Gold, and he's looking primed to try and chase down Marcel Fritsch, but he'll have the company of Ben Gregory for Full Tilt Motorsport and Mark Sykes for Next Gen Orange Whiskey runners racing behind him on row number 12. On row 13, it'll be Nick Clemens for iRacing Esports and Kieran Smart for Track Scotland, head of his teammate Stuart Winers for Track Scotland. Intriguingly there, Track Scotland having their worst qualifying performances of the season, both together here, so they've left themselves with a huge amount of work to do. That Elantra really struggling in their hands. Dylan Hunter starts P28 for DH Racing meanwhile, and then the top 30 is completed by Lewis Mason for Aztec Racing and Sam Smith for iRacing Esports. And then do have Sean Dowie, P31 for Aztec Racing ahead of Gabriel Yilmaz, the Aztec Racing driver. They've just been out qualified by the Scotsman, but in turn both drivers just ahead of the Northern Irishman of Alan McCain for iRacing Esports, who in turn has Josh Brown for company, P34 for National Racing Team. Sammy Arriba starts P35 for Courtmaster Motorsport ahead of Craig Tillison for Rhino Academy. And then as we look further on down the order, ladies and gentlemen, we'll have on what will be the effective 19th row of the grid, but starting from the pit lane, it'll be Wayne Douglas and Jonathan, and what will be Kevin Smith, the Douglas Motorsport and Verona Academy drivers there. Also a qualifying band for Jonathan Collins, who will start last but not least P38 on this grid, and well, that's how all the drivers will line up today. It's going to be a fun race, no doubt about it, but 39 drivers, Collins at the rear, and at the very front of the field, Wojciech Swierdajc, and as all the drivers get set, we've still got a little bit of time before the lights do go on, about the best part of 10 seconds or so, but you can see up there, look at the fact the two cars are practically side by side. Whereas at most circuits, the pole sitter starts a couple of what will be meters ahead of their rival, or less than a meter ahead, depending on the circuit. Here today, they line up side by side, and therefore it will be Mould on the left, Swierdajc on the right as we look down towards them from turn number 1. It's a long run to turn 1. It's all about the race launch, but who will lead the way? Will it be Swierdajc? Will it be Mould? Could Cebula perhaps sneak his way through? Will the lights go on, ladies and gentlemen, for the first time here at Sandown? And without further ado, it's lights out, away we go as Dan Mould gets initially a good start, but then Swierdajc gets the second half of the start absolutely nailed on, and as they make the way away then, it'll be Swierdajc who leads down towards turn number 1 as Mould immediately goes defensive under braking. Through the left hand they go, Swierdajc going very, very wide. He joins there, and Mould's going to go on the offensive and gets ahead of Swierdajc, backs off. Mikey Doble, meanwhile, has snuck his way through into P3. He's going to try and go for P2 here in towards turn number 4. It's a good move from Doble, a little bit of squeeze the apex there, but Swierdajc knows he can't get too close, as always they'll both go around, and all the drivers now begin to concertina their way through turns 2, 3 and 4, all the field safely on through. We just had a slight issue, I do believe, for it's Kevin Smith, and we've had technical issues for Andrew Pike before he got underway. The car has had a major engine issue, and therefore they've had to take the car to the pit lane. But as we do have 38 drivers still roaring the way on through, and Swierdajc still fighting back versus Doble. Well, Doble's holding on to P2 as they make the way on down the hill. Meanwhile, further back you can see Sam Van Olsen's got ahead of Lewis Delmont at the start. Sam Van Olsen had a lightning start. Meanwhile, Lewis Delmont's had a slow one in the Honda, and as all the drivers made the way on through, we've had a bit of an incident for Sam Smith at the top of the hill at turn number 6, and meanwhile back in the AM class, Marcel Fritsch, well, whilst he may have qualified the best part of 6 places ahead of his AM rivals, well, right now he has got Callum Murray absolutely breathing down his neck as they go on to lap number 2, where it's an intriguing start there in the AM class, and Callum Murray absolutely launching it like gold. But as they make the way onwards towards lap 2, it is Dan Mould who leads by Mikey Doble over 8 tenths, and then it'll be Wojciech Swierdajczyk ahead of Lee Horn in the battle for P3. Tom Davidson sits P5, Gavin Garner P6, Jaroslaw Cebula P7, Benjamin McCluskey P8, as we see a change of position here. That's Davidson battling with Cebula for P6 right now, and well, Gavin Garner also getting involved. In fact, Davidson being ushered down the order as the Next Gen Pink Brigade makes its way through. 2 cars get through, and McCluskey saying, well, can I do so as well? Meanwhile, Jamie Dory nowhere to be seen. He's a bit further back down in P13. The Next Gen Pink just trying to muscle their way past Davidson, who's trying to plug the gap, so they make the way up towards turn 6. Into the braking zone they go, and meanwhile, Mikey Doble under huge pressure here from Swierdajczyk. They come on down, but knowing right now all he's got to do is stay ahead of Cebula, who's much further back by comparison. But in terms of the rest of the top 10 from McCluskey in P8, it is Lewis Delman battling up the inside there of Sam Van Olst in towards the left-hander turn number 9, and Delman coming back there, gets the place absolutely nailed under Lewis Delman. It's a lovely move, but here comes Van Olst now looking around the outside, so Van Olst has not had enough as they head onto the brakes, but too wide they enter into turn 11, and Van Olst very quickly backs off as we look back from the rear of the leading prime driver here as they head on towards lap number 3. Now powering the way onwards onto the next lap, where you can imagine now that Van Olst, after what has been a great start, Lewis Delman has now found his pace. And also keep in mind the Honda drivers normally do take a couple of laps to get those tyres in the optimum window, but once they do, these Hondas really start to fly. As car part there, we're in fact going quite slowly. That is a car that is a lap down, I do believe, and that is the car of Sam Smith down in P38 after what was a major moan earlier on. So Smith having a bit of a nightmare time, and well, as the drivers roar the way on around, well, right now you can just see how close it's getting between the ball, as meanwhile Smith there just ducking to the side, respecting the blue flags, and knowing it is a bit of a misfortunate time to be in that situation. But the flip side of the coin, of course, being that just by being respectful, he won't draw the ire of his rivals. Meanwhile, further back, we see Ben Gregory fights with Michael Lees. This is for P4 in the Brown class. They head uphill. Gregory on the inside there, and Hyundai Elantra for Full Tilt Motorsport. Meanwhile, the JWM Motorsport Honda just holding on there for Lees as they head on in. Gregory tries to force the door back open, but Lees simply says, no, I'm going to cut in next. I'm not going to take the front of your car off. And as they come down to the braking zone, we can see Gregory try to take a look. There's a tap there to the side of Lees. Lees goes round, collects the car. Marcel Fritsch takes to the grass. Great evasive try there from Fritsch. Also, Kieran Smart to see it coming and backing off there just in time. And Smart's now going to gain not just one but 2 places as Fritsch tries to hold it behind us now. Lees looks up the inside. Michael Lees won't be too happy about that with Gregory giving the tap. I'm sure they'll talk about it afterwards. And in the Kieran Smart getting 2 places for the price of 1 instant in front of him. It's very well played. Meanwhile, back at the front of the field, Wojciech Swierdajczyk now got back into the lead this race into turn number 1. So it's all changed in the battle for the lead. This top 4 absolutely pushing each other to limit, and Swierdajczyk finding his way on through. And we're coming in towards turn number 4. Keep in mind, of course, that given he is a guest driver for the second half of the season, he won't be scoring any points. So the winning points will by default go to Dan Mould if things finish as they currently stand. And then it'll be Mikey Doble, then Lee Horn, who'll be essentially classified as your podium finishers for the points after everything is considered. But meanwhile, some drama further down. That is Gabriel Yilmaz. And where is that? I think that's on the exit of turn number 3. As he tries to get the car turned around, he does so. There's Craig Tillotson just going through the camera shot. But what exactly happened to Gabriel Yilmaz? He's been escorted off the circuit, I suspect. And here's a quick replay. Well, this was down into the chicane. Jonathan Collins looking up the inside, bounced over the curb, tapped the side of Yilmaz, sent him round there. Yilmaz just missing the tyre barrier, getting the brakes on just in time. Unfortunately, I think Collins there will look back at that one and think, should I have really gone all in for that? And I think the answer that Yilmaz will say to him afterwards is, no, you shouldn't have. But meanwhile, as we return to live racing pitch as well, further up the road from Yilmaz, we've still got plenty of fighting to go between the drivers here, including Alan McCain, who's absolutely doing everything he can. And, well, we do see there where's Josh Brown and Craig Tillotson queuing up behind Alan McCain, as Jonathan Collins is the next car in the running order ahead of all of them as the drivers make their way on through on towards the next lap of this race. But we can see a flash of lights there from Brown. Brown really trying to get into McCain's head right now. And Craig Tillotson, meanwhile, just watching on behind as we ride on board here with the P32 overall driver, the P8 AM driver, who we haven't seen on the grid for what has been the last couple of rounds. But it's great to see Tillotson back once again. Today he goes very deep, however, misses braking point and carrying too much speed, and that enables Sammy Arriba just to take the place off him. And Tillotson there a little bit too eager with the speed he carried into the corner and almost being punished for it. it. He does lose the place, but that could have been far, far worse, but it wasn't to be, thankfully. Oh my goodness, as soon as I say that, Tillerson literally completely upsets the apple cart and makes impact with the exit wall at turn number 4, and well, that's the commentator's curse I've ever seen it here in Australia. And Tillerson right now in a car whose suspension will definitely not be pointing as straight as it once was. But meanwhile, as the drivers continue to push onwards, we look to Joe Doble and William Guthrie, and Guthrie has gone out wide there, and I think there's been a lot of dust and smoke being kicked up. I think there's been a bit of an altercation between what is Doble and Guthrie. The full Tilbury Motorsport driver losing place, his hand over fist as he makes his way in towards the last couple of corners. We'll try and get a replay of that when we can, but meanwhile we need to look back towards the front of the field, because onto lap 6 they go. Swierdowicz is still leading, but then you do see it behind Mikey Doble and what is Dan Mould all together here as the drivers make the way on through, and well, Doble back ahead of Mould now, and Mould's fallen down to P3. Not quite sure how that's happened, but we will find out where we can as to what's happened between the drivers, but definitely plenty of fighting between them and some surprises as well. And as they head onwards towards what will be turn number 6, and it's going to be very close here between the drivers, and well, at this time it looks like Mould just settling back in to the hunt and not trying to go on the offensive anytime soon. But we do have a replay to explain what exactly happened between Mould and Doble, and here is the replay, ladies and gentlemen. It was at the start of lap 6. And it was a drag race down towards turn number 1, and Mould in the end on that inside. A poor run out of turns 12 and 13, and Doble in the end just absolutely charges way past that Audi RS3 using the straight line speed acceleration that Audi is known for, and Mould in the end just wilting there a little bit. But then again, we've got a long way to go in this race, and anything can happen before it's all said and done. But you can see how Swierdowicz is now starting to pull away. 9/10 is the gap, and it's growing as they go into lap 7, doing a little bit of bob and weave down the start finish straight in order to try and break the toe. Mould meanwhile now coming back, trying to look for the move here as they head in towards turn number 1, and will keeps looking a little bit more. Mould's really thinking about it here, but in the end Doble allowed to take his race in line. I think Mould, cognizant of the fact that if they start to fight, they'll bring Horn, they'll bring Cebula all into this, and they don't want to be involved in that altercation. Meanwhile, further back, Wayne Douglas fighting with Nick Clemens here for P23 as they come down towards turn number 1. Douglas looking up the inside, having started from the pit lane, and once the brakes he goes and makes quick work of P23, and Clemens just tucks in behind there as meanwhile Mark Sykes, your P2 Amdro, is the next mark for Douglas to try and reach. But will he be able to do so? We'll have to wait and see. It's Callum Murray after that brilliant start, falling back towards P3 in the M class P25. There's a bit of a story there that we haven't quite seen. What we can tell you is the fact that Callum Murray has got a good amount of time between himself and Lewis Mason, who's 1.3 seconds back, and as they roar the way up the rise. Right now Callum Murray continuing to just simply put the hammer down as much as he can, but further back Lewis Mason under pressure then from what is Sean Doby and Jonathan Collins as we look back from the rear of the Aztec Racing machine, and well, you can see the battle box in the bottom right corner of your screen, and that gives you the sense of how close these drivers are, in the fact the gap there being 4.5 tenths to Sean Doby in the 88 Racing Lancia. There comes Collins, however. Collins goes all in, and Sean Doby near made to open the door, and I think being caught by surprise, but Collins going for the lunge, and it works out this time, but he's got to be careful of that, because not all drivers will see it happen and be able to open the steering up, but it's a daring move from Collins, and meanwhile Doby mounts the curb, bounces over it, they go too wide for the chicane, and coming out the final quarter, well, Collins will take what will be that P5 in the P5 in the AM class of the Doby, who's now made to go backwards as Alan McCain gets between the two of them, the prime driver. But as they make their way down the start finish straight, you can see that McCain tucking into tail Collins when they get through, and Josh Brown on the back of this battle trying to also become a player in it as they head in turn 1. But Collins goes very, very deep. Alan McCain follows him, and Sean Doby just simply sails on through past McCain. Can he clear Collins? They head onto the brakes. Well, no, he can't. It's too wide into the chicane, and in the end, Doby's given enough breathing room as Brown tries to find a way through, but finds out very quickly that 2 into 1 quarter don't go well here, as there's contact between Doby and Collins. It's getting very, very tasty between these AM drivers. McCain right now is flashing his lights by, getting frustrated because he just wants to clear this pack and go hunting after other prime drivers, but he's not being allowed to. To be fair, they don't have to get out of his way. It's the fact that he finds himself behind them, and as they head over the crest and in towards turn number 6, well, there's going to be Brown. He takes 1, he takes 2. Can he take all 3 of them? And the answer is yes, Josh Brown can, as they come down the hill, and Brown moves up into P4 in the AM class. Brilliant driving from the Irishman. Goes deep, gets it, stops in time, but Collins comes absolutely roaring on in. Meanwhile, Sean Doby goes very wide there and has to regain the time he's now lost. But there's going to be some contact, and as they make the way into turn 11, well, it's gloves off here between Brown and Collins. These two absolutely going at each other. You think they're going for the AM win? Well, for them, a P5 in the AM class will feel like a win with regards to the points they'll pick up for it, given the way their championships have played out so far in the last few rounds. But brilliant racing between them, and I don't think it's quite over yet as they head down towards turn 1, and Collins right now looking up the inside of Brown. ground here. These two AM drivers absolutely putting on a pro performance. They head into the anchor zone, and for turn one, a bit of a rub there. And some elbows coming out, and Collins does make his way through, and flash of lights there from Collins. I think he's now looking to McCain and saying, you owe me a place. But meanwhile, whilst that battle calms down, we look back up to the front of the field. This is the fight for P2, and with Sweardike already now 2 seconds clear as they head up towards the next set of corners. Well, now for Mikey Doble, it's all about trying to hold on. In the fact he's got Moldhorn and Cebula all separated by what is only 1.2 seconds between the quartet as they come out of turn number 12 in towards 13 and then towards another lap. We can see Sweardike just now taking a much more standard line out the corners, knowing he's opened up enough of a gap to really be able to just run away. But here comes Mold looking for the move on the inside, then down towards turn one, and in the end Doble just backing off there, letting Mold take the position. I get the feeling that Doble really playing the bigger picture here, which is he can afford to let Mold take the place so long as Cebula doesn't get ahead of him, and that is the most important thing. Cebula at the back of this group right now, and that's where Mikey Doble has got his eyesight set. But as they head through turn number 4, meanwhile we look back to what is your AM Class P2 battle between Mark Sykes and Callum Murray, and Murray is making his way in towards the left-hander at turn 1, and as they come on out of the corner, well, now for Callum Murray it's all about attacking here as much as he can, as then it'll be at Nick Clearance, but there's still a sizable gap to Marcel Fritz, your AM leader for Rano Academy, who is a long way up the road in P17. But we ride on board looking down over the nose here of Callum Murray's car, the Honda, not quite as strong on the run out the corners compared to Audi, and see Sykes just able to blast off into the distance here as they make the way up towards the highest point in the circuit, and Sykes trying to pick the right car to invest in the slipstream of it in front of him, also trying to break the toe to Murray where he can a little bit, but Callum Murray literally following the footsteps of Sykes as they head over the rides and down through turns 6, 7, 8 and into 9. You can see that Sykes getting very sideways through 7 and 8 and having to collect the car together, and the next generation Whiskey Runners driver almost losing it there, and Callum Murray meanwhile absolutely stable as ever, and it does go to show you the difference in the cars, and also the fact that Sykes right now is really trying to push the tempo here. Callum Murray meanwhile I think he's just sat back right now thinking, go on Mark, push yourself too hard, I'll just take the place off you when you make a mistake. We've still got some time in this race of course, ladies and gentlemen, and mistakes can still happen as I try to head down towards turn number 1 onto the 11th time of asking, and what the foreground this camera shot you do have Ben Gregory fighting side by side with Nick Clearance. Clearance on the inside, Gregory on the outside, onto the brakes they go, and Clearance there on the inside will take the place of P21. Gregory taps the rear of him, and Ben Gregory knowing right now this is not going the way he wants it to whatsoever, in the fact he needs big points. Stuart Winus is down in P34, so this is good for Gregory, but it's nowhere near good enough in order to achieve parity versus his championship rival in the Prime class and be able to try and get himself back on level form for Bathurst, and well, that means races 2 and 3 will need to be much more profitable as they come out to turn number 5 and up towards 6 they go. Long line of cars here, and everyone's still twitching for a bit of a battle. Meanwhile, speaking of Stuart Winus, here he is all the way down in the number 61 in P34. The Track Scotland driver being P8 in the Prime class, he'll still get some points, but this is not where he wants to be. Tucked in behind Gabriel Yilmaz, but these two drivers have had 2 very troubled stories, and therefore this race really feels like it's a bit of a write-off, and all they can do is get to the end and move on to race number 2. But heading over the rise for them, we look from them back towards your race leader, Wojciech Sweardike, the Semper Racing driver, continue to open up the gap now, 2.6 seconds here with 5 laps to go. Dan Mould meanwhile in P2, still keeping Mikey Doble at bay as they head in towards turn number 4. And we say hello there in the YouTube chat to Handsome Shoe, who's got his money on Andrew Pike winning. Well, given the retirement for Andrew Pike, in fact that car is, well, it's not retired, but it did have engine troubles, so it's back out there, and it is the best part of what is the 6 laps down on the rest of the field. I think there's going to be a bit of a miracle to see Andrew Pike win, but you never know. And as the drivers head on up the rise here, will Mould right now starting to just inch that gap open a little bit more, and well, as he does so, Lee Horn now started to fall a little bit further back, and Cebula as well sliding backwards in P5, so therefore it is looking as though all these drivers now starting, it would seem, to be hitting the limit, alternatively starting to find the true pace if you're Mikey Doble and Dan Mould, and Lee Horn just watching on behind. Meanwhile, further back down the order, move up the inside there, and a big elbow to Alex Meredith, and well, the number 19 driver being sent wide there coming through turn number 9, and that was contact with Duncan Rise, who went all in for the move. Jamie Dory taking the place of a Meredith, and well, as they come through turns 11 and 12, well, they've still got some more laps to go, but Meredith won't be too pleased about that, and I can imagine mother Catherine Meredith in the YouTube chat, who's tuning in and cheering on Alex, won't be too happy about that either, and hoping her son can get back. As you can see a flash of lights there from Alex, he's not happy about it at all. But whilst they do make the way on down towards turn number 1. Well, as they head down, we've had an incident for Mark Sykes and Michael Leese, we believe. We're going to get a replay of that shortly because Mark Sykes and Michael Leese have both had to be towed to the pit lane, and that releases Callum Murray into P2 in the AM class. Being seen here right now, Meredith looking from one side to the other, getting very, very twitchy there as he heads on through the chicane, and we ride on board with the number 19 driver in the Elantra, and he wants to try and take the place back versus Duncan Rays. He wants to try and get a bit further up the overall order in order to be able to get some more points for the team and also for himself. But as they head up the rise in towards turn number 6, well, right now you can see that gap here as they make the way up the hill, and the Elantra drivers really will now start to feel those front tyres going off given the track temperatures we've seen, and we're coming down to that braking zone. The car snapping around there, sliding loose. He heads in towards 7-8. And down into 9 he goes, absolutely gets it stopped on a dime, and for the left hand of the Briton right now all over the back of the South African, looking for an opportunity as some gravel goes up into the windshield, but no way through as they head through the second chicane, and will 3 more laps to go for these drivers as they roar their way to the end of this lap, and well, it's still a bit of a distance to go as Meredith will know he's got to work even harder to try and make a move happen. But speaking of moves happening, we take a look back at what happened to Mark Sykes and Michael Leese only moments ago, and this was into the first chicane on lap number 12. Sykes on the inside, bouncing off the curb, and Leese minding his own business, and the two of them into the barrier, and that's what happened, and that led to the tow for the two drivers there, and Sykes coming roaring on in, and I suspect he'll be right on board. Let's listen in. And just going very aggressive over the apex curb, and in the end the car came crashing down. He became a passenger in it very quickly, and Michael Leese being collected there. So Mark Sykes will learn from that one. A frustrating one for both drivers, no doubt about that. I'm sure they might have a couple of words after the race, but still, coming back to your live pictures, Alex Meredith tries to chase his way back after Duncan Rise. Meanwhile, we look up here, and it's too wide down for turn 7, 8, and in towards 9, and that is McCluskey versus Wes Davidson as they fight for P7, and Davidson being given the elbow out there as they come through 9, and that's going to force what will be at Davidson on the back foot versus Lewis Delmont, your Pro-Am leader, who has got right behind their Sam Bernals, but between the two of them now, Davidson sits, and therefore Lewis Delmont will be very happy to take a bit of breathing room here as they come out of the final quarter to go to lap 15. 2 laps to go, and Lewis Delmont right now is under growing pressure from Sam Bernals, but that pressure will be abated a little bit given the fact that Davidson sliced his way in. But look at McCluskey going defensive here down into turn 1. Delmont's going to look around the outside here, and well, can he channel a little bit of his father's spirit as they head for a left-hander? My gut instinct says yes, he can. We're like father, like son, as they say, and we know that Adam Delmont, one of the best racers in the NXTCC grid, and well, Lewis Delmont right now doing everything he can to channel that as they head through turns 2, 3, and in towards 4. But Benjamin McCluskey is not an easy foe to pass here, and McCluskey is normally silent compared to many of the drivers down in the paddock, but whilst he's a man of few words by comparison, he's a man whose actions on the circuit speak very loudly indeed. And as they head up towards turn number 6, Delmont just in the tow as Davidson and Bernals meanwhile form their own little pair just a bit further back by 4 tenths, and coming in towards the second half of the lap here. Lewis Delmont right now 9, so long as he keeps on this path he'll be safe to take that prime win, but then again will he settle for it, as meanwhile we've got a big moment there, and that is Dylan Hunter who's a lap down, taking towards the gravel there in order to respect the blue flags. I think outbraking himself as well, so frustrating first race of the day. And our leader meanwhile, you see him off in the distance, Wojciech Swiadovic goes on to lead 1 more lap here, but Dan Mould right now in P2, well, he's fighting for the winner's points as they head in towards turn number 1. That white flag waves, but will it be Mould or will it be Mikey Doble who takes the place off him right at the close here? Well, here we're about to find out as they head through turn number 1, and in the rear of the picture Lewis Delmont still battling side by side with Benjamin McCluskey, looking for the opportunity coming in towards turn 1, going around the outside. There's a small tap to the rear quarter panel of Lewis Delmont, it sends him wide, McCluskey goes with him, and here comes Davidson goes around the outside, but Delmont will stop the rock there shortly as they come down through turns 2 and 3, and that's where Sam Bernals has to tuck back in. But meanwhile, as they make the way through for the prime lead, we come back to Mould, who's still trying to hold on for the overall win here effectively after Swiadovic, who's 3.5 seconds up the road. And as they go onwards towards turn number 6 with Mikey Doble on the inside, they're going to be too wide initially, but Mould switches back a flash of lights there, and Mikey Doble slipstreams his way past, and Mould now I think looking to try and come back in the last few quarters. Can he? That'll be the question as they head out to turn number 9 up towards 10, and I think at this point it may be said and done as Mikey Doble seems to be pulling enough of a gap, but in towards the final chicane they go, and as they do, well, meanwhile Wojciech Swiadovic makes his way out to turn 12. and knows that it's been a race he's had full control over, minus the first couple of laps. But with that, he takes the checker flag, and Wojciech Swiderich is your race winner for Semper Racing, ahead of Mikey Doble P2 for Doble Sim Racing, ahead of SO NXTGEN Gold's Dan Mull for P3, Lee Horn P4 for NXTGEN Orange Whiskey Runners, and NXTGEN Pink's Jaroslaw Cebula finishes P5. Gavin Goddard will take P6 ahead of Benjamin McCluskey and Tom Davidson. Lewis Delmont takes the prime win there for SO NXTGEN Gold, another prime win to add to his name, and Sam Van Olst just misses out on the prime win with P10 overall for Goldwing Motorsports. P11 comes home Isaac Doble. Further back, meanwhile, Marcel Fritsch for P20 overall takes the AM win, and that's exactly what the doctor ordered after the difficulties of Thruxton. P2 in the AM class will go to Callum Murray, P23, in an absolutely deserved runner-up spot, and Lewis Mason takes another AM podium with P3 in the class for Aztec Racing, P24 overall, and a solid drive. And Sean Derby not too far back on his return to the grid after missing a couple of rounds. Well, he takes P4 in the AM class and a brilliant drive there. You can see a little weave there. He's happy with that. Craig Tillerson and Kevin Smith there. P5, P6 in the AM class. P27, P28. They're very happy with that, particularly given the two of them have only just recently returned to the grid, and more so for Kevin Smith, who started from the pit lane. And then Sammy Arriva and Jonathan Collins will complete your top 30. And we do still have what is Sam Smith. Well, he's on a cool down up and a lap down. So we do have all your race finishers now accounted for, ladies and gentlemen. And what a race here. The kickoff proceedings at Sandown. It had a little bit of everything. Plenty of elbows out, plenty of sand being kicked around, and also some absolutely brilliant racing right at the beating heart of it. But for Wojciech Swiderich, after what was a troubling start, the first couple of laps seemed to not go his way. He found his way back into the lead, and after that, nobody could quite touch him in that Hyundai Veloster for Semper Racing. But Mikey Doble, meanwhile, knowing that win is a big one, and it just puts him one step ahead of this man, Jaroslaw Cebula, NXTGEN Pink driver, now 9 in race number 2. His work gets even harder. Meanwhile, as the drivers all come into the pit lane, well, there we look to Callum Murray as they all gradually queue their way in. And, well, Marcel Fritsch, you can see in the distance there, having taken that AM win, he'll be absolutely ecstatic about that. And then if he carries on those results, that AM crown could be his after today. Well, of course, we'll take a look at the provisional results afterwards, but we won't confirm anything until the start of the broadcast at Bathurst. But Callum Murray will know that result means a lot to him, as will that P3 for Lewis Mason in the AM class. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at those race results. So as the provisional results come on screen, these are all subject to Stewards' inquiries, of course, with race number 1 in the bag for round number 9 of Season 8 of the NXTCC, brought to you on iRacing, powered by Doble Motorcycles. Wojciech Swiderich taking victory for Semper Racing by 3.7 seconds over Mikey Doble. The Doble Sim Racing driver, 9, all he needed to do was finish ahead of Jaroslaw Cebula, but in the end finishing ahead of the rest of the competing field, with Dan Mould at P3 there, a further 3 tenths behind for SO NXTGEN Gold. But great to see Mould back on the podium there, and that's where he belongs, no doubt about it. Lee Horn at P4 for NXTGEN Orange Whiskey Runners in a very, very strongly run race there, and just simply staying out of trouble and keeping an eye out for opportunities, and that's the way Lee Horn does it best. Jaroslaw Cebula, P5 for NXTGEN Pink, not quite on the pace of what was the top 4, but at the same time staying with them, but not able to make the progress he would perhaps like, and just ahead of his teammates in NXTGEN Pink of Gavin Gardner and Benjamin McCluskey. Now it was a further 6 tenths to P8 driver Tom Davidson from that brilliant battle in between himself, McCluskey, and Lewis Delmont in the end, ready to find their last couple of laps. Speaking of Lewis Delmont, he finished behind the Sim Racing Collective driver, but most importantly for the SO NXTGEN Gold driver, that P9 translates into a Pro-Am race win. After that prime pole position, well, that's exactly the way you want to start off your day down under in Australia for Lewis Delmont, and showing exactly where all that pace is, with Sam Van Olst just behind him there by what was a second for Goldwing Motorsport, and runner up in the prime class. Congratulations to Sam. Behind the Belgian, it was Isaac Doble, P11, best the rest of Doble Sim Racing, with Full Tilt Motorsports' Ben Altrier fighting hard for a P12, but not quite on the pace in that Elantra. Jamie Dory, P13 for NXTGEN Pink, just finishing by 3 tenths of Duncan Moraes. The Goldwing Motorsport driver then being followed up by Alex Meredith for NXTGEN Orange Whiskey Runners, who round off your overall top 15. To complete the top 20, it was Joe Dober ahead of William Guthrie, the Full Tilt Motorsport driver, not quite on the pace in his first race, and also being elbowed out in the first couple of laps. And we also see that what we saw there, I should say, Kieran Smart, who in the end missing out on what was the podium in the Pram class, with Duncan Rice taking the 3rd and final spot on the Pram podium. But given that Kieran Smart started all the way down in what was P26, well, what a performance there for the Track Scotland driver to take P4 in the Pram class and move his way all the way up into the top 20. Wayne Douglas, P19 for Douglas Motorsport, and Marcel Fritsch, the AM winner, took P20 there for Runner Academy, and what a dominant drive from the number 7. Nick Clemens was P21 ahead of Ben Gregory, with Callum Murray taking home the run-up spot in the AM class there for SO NXTGEN Gold. Congratulations to him, he'll be absolutely chuffed with that. And Lewis Mason and 991 for Aztec Racing ran off the AM podium there, P24. It was Alan McCain, P25, ahead of Sean Doble on his return, taking a P4 in the AM class. That's no mean feat, ahead of Craig Tillerson, who round off the AM top 5. And it was he and his Rhino Academy teammate Kevin Smith who finished together there, P27, P28. Sammy Reaver was P29 for Quartermaster Motorsport, not quite able to hold off the charge of the Rhino Academy drivers. And Joyful Collins completed your top 30. Stuart Winus in a frustrating first race of the day, P31 for Track Scotland. And that's going to give Ben Gregory a little bit of hope, but then again, not hope as much as perhaps Ben Gregory would have liked if he'd been able to finish a bit higher, so therefore Winus will have that on his side. Gabriel Yilmaz finished P32 ahead of Andy Fox, with Sam Smith finishing a lap down there, P34, 2 laps down to Mark Sykes, P35, 4 laps down to Josh Brown, and then out of our 38 starters, we did see both finish 5 laps down, and therefore classified as finishers, Michael Leese and Dylan Hunter. So 38 starters, 38 finishers, 34 of which were on the lead lap, ladies and gentlemen, and well, that does mean now we turn our attentions to race number 2, because race number 1 was an absolute no-holds-barred thriller after a brilliant qualifying session, but what could race 2 have in store as the sun shines down on the Sandown circuit? We'll be back in approximately 7 to 8 minutes to continue the story and find out, but until then, ladies and gentlemen, let's leave you with a word from our title sponsor for this season, none other than Doble Motorcycles. We will see you very shortly. If you are looking to buy your next two-wheeled machine or ATV, why not consider Doble Motorcycles? Home to an expansive full range of Honda motorcycles, scooters, off-road bikes and ATVs, Doble Motorcycles is the UK's leading Honda motorcycle dealer. However, do not just take our word for it. Having won numerous awards over the years, including 3 Motorcycle News Dealer of the Year awards, and being nominated for many more, including Honda Dealer of the Year 4 times, the Doble family-run business prides itself on customer service, and it shows. Add to this the family's rich racing history through 3 generations, as currently embodied by Mikey Doble Racing, with Mikey chasing glory in the BTCC, and you can be certain that you will receive excellent customer service from lights out to checkered flag. So if you'd like to know more, check out their website today at doble.co.uk. Speaking of Mikey Doble Racing, if you'd like to support Mikey as he pushes it to the limit out on track, you can do so by following the Mikey Doble Racing Facebook page as seen on screen. Additionally, if you want to represent the 88 Army at a BTCC weekend, Mikey Doble Racing has some fantastic merchandise available just for you, as may be found either via the Mikey Doble Racing Facebook page or alternatively in the Doble Motorcycle store at dobledirect.co.uk. Don't miss out on being a part of the 88 Army today. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, now for the build-up to race number 2. As quickly as race 1 has concluded, we are back for our second race of the day here at the Sandown International Motor Raceway in the city of Melbourne in the Australian state of Victoria. And, well, what a first race we had. There were plenty of elbows-out moments. You're always going to get them at a tight and nippy circuit, such as Sandown. But at the same time as well, we saw some absolutely brilliant door-to-door racing from start to finish. And, well, in at the end, well, it was none other than Mikey Doble, who took home that P2, the most important feat for him, finishing behind Wojciech Swierdajczyk, and well, Swierdajczyk seemed absolutely untouchable, but the overall championship leader on his way to a 4th title fended off the charges of Dan Mould, also what was none other than Jaroslaw Cebula and Lee Horn. Then again, as we do look to the car of Wojciech Swierdajczyk, well, this man looking unstoppable for Semper Racing, and I get the feeling, ladies and gentlemen, if we were to see him back on the grid in what would be Season 9, he would be looking to add a 3rd title to his crowns, and well, it would be a title challenge well met by Mikey Doble, and that would be something we would all love to see. But today, at least, indeed for this season, Swierdajczyk not making it into the initial season cut and therefore joining mid-season as a guest, well, he's not competing for prizes, he's just competing for a little bit of pride and also to enjoy touring car racing. As he makes his way down towards turn number 1, meanwhile one driver who's competing for a lot of pride, some big points and a huge result was none other than Lewis Delmont. And in fact, we are going to try and get a word with Lewis as he makes his way on around. Let's see if we can catch him very quickly. Just cognizant of the fact he might be making his way down through the corners, so we are going to try and catch him very shortly as he gets to the end of the run of turns 6 into 9. And that's when we will pitch into it. But what a drive from Lewis Delmont, no doubt about it, absolutely flying. And well, as he now makes his way out those corners, let's grab a quick word.
You must
Lewis, can we get a quick word?
Points for coming second if Wodge comes first. That must be what it is.
Lewis, can we get a quick word with yourself?
Yes, of course, of course.
Lewis, congratulations on an absolutely brilliant win in race number 1, and also to add to that, an absolutely superb pro and pole position. I mean, you were saying to me in the build-up to today that you were going all in and things were looking good, but I mean, it showed in the race.
Yeah, I've only driven this track before yesterday in the wet, and I just smashed a bit of practice. Saw that I were actually really quick for some reason, and yeah, I've just been staying consistent. I'm definitely going to struggle in this race though. This weight is not feeling good.
Oh, indeed. So I was going to say, it's your first time running the maximum prime success ballast, so already you're noticing the differences.
Yeah, and the braking it is definitely sketchy.
Well, we'll leave you to it and getting used to it whilst you've got a minute or two, but good luck in race 2, and we'll see you at the checkered flag.
Well,
so hearing that there from Lewis Delmont, ladies and gentlemen, a very happy Lewis Delmont. And we caught him midway through talking about strategy, I do believe, between himself and his teammates at SO and NXTGEN Gold, but definitely also noticing the weight in the car and talking about there how it changes the differences in the behaviour of the car, and what a heavy Honda there. And to put you in the perspective, he has now taken with him into this race where it's 32.5 kilograms of success ballast in the number 23 Honda, and that is definitely going to hurt him under braking in terms of getting that car stopped. He'll just feel as though there's more weight to park at each and every apex, and particularly those low speed corners being coming down from a lot of speed, so particularly from what will be the run out of turn 6 down towards 9, that's where we can expect him to potentially just slide a little bit deeper than he would normally do, and he might have to brake a bit earlier or be a bit more intelligent with regards to how he trail brakes into the corner. But we've only got 20 seconds left now as we get set for our second race of the day, and well, in the AM class it was a dominant run from Marcel Fritsch. He's currently in the pit lane there. You can see the car parked up right at number 7, and I think for our Academy driver, he knows that if he brings home a win in this race, he will affect you. I do believe, doing a bit of quick mathematics, he may steal the AM title as a race number 2, but again, we won't confirm that until after all the racing is done. I think that's why Marcel Fritsch may be sitting in the car knowing that destiny is only 16 laps away. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for race number 2. And as our drivers make the way onto the grid, this is how they'll line up for the second race of the day. Starting where they finish from race number 1, it's Wojciech Swierdajc who takes pole position for Semper Racing. Back-to-back pole positions here at Sandown. Ahead of Mikey Doble, P2 for Doble Sim Racing, knowing that he's got a little bit less weight in the car, but still having to do it the hard way. And fend off the likes of Dan Mould, who starts P3 for SL NXTGEN Gold, and also Lee Horn for what is none other than NXTGEN Orange with Risky Runners Racing. We then do have, started in P5, Jaroslaw Cebula for NXTGEN Pink, knowing that he needs to get ahead of Doble in this race in order to deliver some damage, in order to make his way back into that championship fight. Gavin Gardner will keep him company as teammate. P6 is the starting position for the Brit, with then Benjamin McCluskey starting P7 for NXTGEN Pink ahead of Tom Davidson for the Sim Racing Collective. From the 42 driver who enjoyed plenty of battling in race number 1, we'll be in the company of your pro and pole sitter and winner from what was race number 1, Lewis Delmont for SL NXTGEN Gold, and then Sam Vernols, his main rival, the second place prime driver, lines up alongside him on the 5th row of the grid, P10 for Goldwyn Motorsport. Isaac Doble starts P11 for Doble Sim Racing ahead of Ben Altrier. And then we do have behind them what will be on row at number 7, none other than Jamie Dory for NXTGEN Pink and Duncan Myers for Goldwyn Motorsport, the 3rd place prime driver who made a lot of progress in race 1, but he'll know he's got to make even more progress in this second race of the day. Then it's Alex Meadow who starts P15 for NXTGEN Orange Whiskey Runners Racing ahead of Doble Sim Racing's Joe Doble, with William Guthrie at P17 there for Full Tilt Motorsport, in a good start to today after the difficulties in the early portions of the race. We made a good recovery drive and he'll want to pick up some more places and guarantee a spot in that reverse grid. As will Kieran Smart, who started P26 in race 1, but here he starts P18 in race 2 for Track Scotland, ahead of Wayne Douglas for Douglas Motorsport. And P20 goes the way of Ampole Sitter and looking to make it 2 wins out of 2, Marcel Fritz-Verano Academy. Nick Clemens starts P21 for iRace Esports ahead of Full Tilt Motorsport's Ben Gregory. And then we do have P23 Callum Murray for SL NXTGEN Gold ahead of Lewis Mason for Aztec Race. Expect some sparks to fly between those two when they get underway. And then we do have on row number 13 Alan McCain for iRace Esports, who is surrounded by AM drivers once again. And while I suspect for Alan McCain it's going to be a frustrated day at the office unless he can clear them quickly. And alongside him will be Sean Doby for ATEC Racing, who'll be looking to try and take the fight with him as soon as possible. Craig Tillerson starts P27 for Rhino Academy ahead of teammate Kevin Smith on that 14th row of the grid, and row 15 is occupied by Sammy Ariba for Courtmass Motorsport and Jonathan Collins for NXTGEN Orange Whiskey Runners Racing. Stuart Weiner starts P31 for Track Scotland ahead of Gabriel Yilmaz for Aztec Racing. And then we do have Andy Fox P33 there for Goldwing Motorsport, who unfortunately his bad luck continues, having been involved in an early incident in race 1. Well, in the end now he's got to do it all from what is there, the 17th row of the grid. He's in the company of Sam Smith, who also ends up in the barriers at the end of race number 1 for iRace Esports. And then we do have Mark Sykes for NXTGEN Orange with Risky Runners Racing after that contact with Michael Lees. Well, the JWM Motorsport driver finds himself in the company of Sykes starting on that 18th row of the grid, and then the last row of the grid will be occupied by Dylan Hunter for DH Racing and Andrew Pyatt for the Sim Racing Collective. And I've been informed, ladies and gentlemen, that we are going to have a slight delay to the start. In fact, we may not now, as I've just been told. Maybe we've got 10 seconds before we do go racing, but there's the field at the distance, and well, as we look on down from afar, well, very shortly we'll look a little bit closer, and Wojciech Swierdajc will once again try to outdrag his rivals down towards turn 1, but Mikey Doble sits on his left hand side, and knowing that the pressure will be there all the way to the opening corner, but we'll have to wait to see whether Doble can get ahead and stay ahead, given that Mould, Horn, Cebula and Gardner on the 2 rows behind will be very eager to make inroads. But here come the lights in, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be 1 red light, then it's going to be 2, then it's going to be 3, then it's going to be 4, then it's going to be 5. And it's lights out, and away we go for the second time today as Mikey Doble gets a much better start compared to Swierdajc. Absolutely flying off the line then, the Audi RS3. Doble's in to lead this race. They head down towards turn number 1. Onto the brakes they go, and as they come down in towards the left-hander, well, meanwhile, we have had a jump start for other drivers. Trying to understand who it was. The car number 62, Dan Mould, has had a jump start, and there's been an instant further back there into turn 1. So Mould with what is a drive-through penalty, and meanwhile, all the drivers now settling down into a running order. But we have had a couple of drivers elbowed out, and Andy Fox unfortunately being caught up in that opening corner instant. It does seem as though Fox right now absolutely having a nightmare day, but as the field make the way out of turns 2, 3 and 4, well, Mikey Doble leads him, but Swierdajc immediately trying to come back at him now as they make the way with the crisp, but decides not to. Sam Van Olsen's ahead of Lewis Delmont in the battle for the prime lead, moving up in a P9 there. The Audi driver seemingly having the better start by comparison as they come down the run now in towards turn number 9. Well, everyone here now on the brakes and squeaky bum time because cold brakes for the first time of asking. Everyone having to tip top. A few nose-to-tail bumps there. It's not uncommon, and well, I think we have had a bit of a... Oh my goodness, and that is a big shunt there for what is Nick Clemens sent to the barrier. We saw briefly it's in there in the rear view picture, and I believe Gabriel Yilmaz has been involved in a separate incident, but Clemens was escorted off the road. Meanwhile, that is a run wide there for Kevin Smith, who takes to the gravel. He's going to rejoin him. He's going to rejoin slowly there to avoid picking up a slowdown penalty, and well, the Rhino Academy driver in a wounded Audi RS3. You can see there the front bumper's not quite aligned. The four rings are at an angle. It's definitely been a weird start for Kevin Smith. But meanwhile, looking back to the front of the field, and as we go on to lap number 2, well, Mikey Doble is still leading ahead of Wojciech Swerdaj. We're Lee Horn in P3, Gavin Garner P4, Dan Mole P5, Jaroslaw Cebula P6, Tom Davidson P7, Benjamin McCluskey P8, Graham Leader Sam Van Ols P9 ahead of Ben Altria. And then outside the top 10, best race P11 is what is your brand winner in race 1, Lewis Delmont, who is conquering, or at least trying to conquer, what is that success ballast. But whilst all this is playing out, meanwhile in the AM class, Callum Murray has found his way all the way into the lead of the AM class, and boy, he's had a great start to this race, no doubt about it. But the big question is, how exactly has Callum Murray made this happen? Well, we do have a replay to explain the story, and here it is, ladies and gentlemen, how Callum Murray into the lead of AM. And this was coming out of the opening corner in towards turn number 2, looking around the outside in the SO NXTGEN Gold Honda, outside to inside, so a poor start for Marcel Fritsch, in fact going very slowly there out of what's the chicane. I think Marcel Fritsch may have had a poor run out of turn 1, and in the end just deciding to play it safe and not risk it, which is very smart there from the champion-elect in the AM class if things go his way. But meanwhile, as our drivers come back to our live pictures, well, we can see still plenty of battling as they go on to lap number 3, and well, Marcel Fritsch meanwhile has got Craig Tillotson for close company, as Tillotson trying to stay close behind him as they make the way onto this next lap. But he's got the pressure of Sam Smith and also Andrew Pike. Pike, who had that major engine issue at the start of race 1, well, he's already gone from P38 to P27, so the Sim Racing Collector driver making very quick work through the running order and trying to make progress. But meanwhile, Joe Doble, well, he's now looking to try and hold off what is there Wayne Douglas, the Doble Sim Racing driver, under pressure for P15, and Douglas are looking to try and make a conquest as quickly as they can as they head onwards towards turn number 6. But Joe Doble right now absolutely digging in here and not showing any signs of giving in whatsoever, but going in towards the left-hander of turn at number 6. We'll stay exactly where he is as Alex Meredith on the back of this right now after what was a very bumpy race number 1. Bumpy in terms of the number of elbows he receives to the side of the car and the rear of it. Well, right now the number 19 driver staying well in the hunt, as you can see William Guthrie immediately behind him and then Ben Gregory. But it does look as though they're the full tilt motorsport drivers are going to have to find some magic to get past the number 19. As they head down towards the break-ins over the second chicane, well, these drivers continue to push each other to the distance, and further back, Jonathan Collins. Well, we did see Collins get very tasty with a few drivers in race 1 as Dan Mould is into the pit lane to serve that drive-through for the jump start, so therefore Mould will drop a long way down the order. You can see him there in the distant camera view on the right-hand side where he's taken was that drive-through penalty. That's going to fit all the way down to the bottom end of the top 30, in fact outside the top 30 practically, as the field makes his way down. But Collins here looking to try and make a bit of ingress there versus Pike and Smith, as Pike now trying to make another move on the inside here of Smith for P25. Can he get it done? Pike goes all in. It's a classic move into turn 1, and Andrew Pike absolutely throwing caution to the wind here and saying I might as well go for it because otherwise I'm not going to gain anything out of today, particularly if he wants to try and take P3 in the overall championship come the end of the season, given he's just holding on to P5 currently. But as he comes out of the corner now, his next time will be Craig Tillotson, and well, that will be a big change. He's going to have to work his way through, given the fact that Tillotson in Atlanta is going to be quite fast in the uphill run. But as they come up the rise, meanwhile, we look to Isaac Doble here as he tries to go defensive versus what is Lewis Delmont, and Delmont still trying to find his way through. Can't quite find it as we look back from the rear of the number 65, and the youngsters here, the two youngest members of their families on the grid right now, both trying to do everything they can in order to channel what is the spirit of their older relatives on the grid or have previously been on the grid. And as they come out of turns 11 and 12, right now Isaac Doble trying to fend off the fast charging prime of Lewis Delmont, who'd love to have an opportunity to chase after Sam Van Ols, but that opportunity is going to be found wanting as they go on to lap number 5. Meanwhile, just in front of them, Lee Horn under some pressure here from Benjamin McCluskey. McCluskey in the next gen pink Veloster on the inside versus the orange Whiskey Runners race with next gen orange of Honda of Lee Horn, and Horn relinquishing that position there and not really fighting it too hard. And my gut feeling tells me that Lee Horn right now trying to play the bigger picture and hoping then that Honda can protect the tyres a bit more. And later in the race, that's where he can make the big progress in order to make his way up the running order. But meanwhile, we do see 3 wide. Oh my good lord, and into turn 4 they go. And Joe Doble was escorted almost to the tyre barrier there in a bit of contact with what is, I believe, the Aztec racing car, unless I'm very much mistaken. I couldn't quite discern who that was there, but that's Gabriel Yilmaz, who is a lap down trying to get out the way. But I think there's a bit more of a story that meets the eye there. I think Joe Doble had a very poor run through what's turns 2 and 3, and in the end found himself being forced into a 3 wide situation coming into the chicane, which is not where you want to be. But as he comes over the crest here and down, we can see right now that for the Doble Sim Racing driver, it really is now about trying to stem the flow of places and stop it as quickly as possible, as Yilmaz there takes to the gravel to avoid all the cars coming on through. Very good awareness there from Yilmaz, no doubts about it. And right now Doble trying to pick his way back past none other than Callum Murray as he looks up the inside into turns 11. Murray gives him the space on the inside, but as says, you're going to have to mount that curb for it, and Callum Murray absolutely holds on to the position. But now that Audi is going to plant the throttle, and Doble here in number 11 will look to try and go around the outside here, try and get the better run. It's a longer run down towards turn 1 on the outside. He can really maximise the use of the horsepower and also the gearing of that Audi, but the problem is that Callum Murray's not going to give in here whatsoever as they head onto the brakes. 2 wide they enter into the corners, the clouds come over, and well, will it be 2 wide they exit when the end Joe Doble goes all the way around the outside. It's brave racing from the Doble Sim Racing driver, and he gets it done. It's meanwhile Pike on the inside of Callum Murray. The 2 Hondas go 2 wide into the chicane. Callum Murray in the end being robbed of places now. Sam Smith just watches from behind, and we take a quick look back at what happened to Joe Doble to start all this off on lap 5. Where we're side by side into the chicane, and Gabriel US trying to get out of the way, and in here not really knowing where to go, and Joe Doble just missing the outside tyre barrier at turn 3. And then we did see that look up the inside by what was Ben Gregory to try and follow his teammate William Guthrie from the full Tilby Motorsport Elantra, and that's what led to Joe Doble being gradually pushed further and further wide. But returning to your live racing pictures, that could have been to Tears, but it wasn't quite. Meanwhile, we have got Tears. That's Duncan Moraes in the wall. What on earth has happened to the Goldwyn Motorsport driver? Well, thankfully, we can get an immediate replay of what's happened, but that is a huge, huge moment, and here it is, as he came on down, losing the rear of the car, down into turn number 8, and in the end, was he aided by Wayne Douglas? We're not sure, but he did make a bit of rebound contact with Wayne Douglas, and Duncan Moraes, in the end, just end up in tears. We look from Wayne Douglas's perspective. Let's listen in. And in the end, no, Moraes just losing it, and Douglas will get a short nudge on the side here very shortly, but it doesn't stop Douglas from pushing on. But Duncan Moraes ends up in tears there as he tries to get the car back together as we return to live pictures, but I suspect that's a tow to the pits for the Goldwyn Motorsport drivers. Meanwhile, from one Goldwyn Motorsport driver in misfortune to one who's absolutely riding a wave right now, Sam Van Olst here battling for P7 on your live screens, and well, he's your prime leader battling with all the pros around him, but he can afford to let Tom Davidson go, and he does so into turn 6, and the Sim Racing Collective pro driver there picks up another place, and now we'll look to go hunting after Lee Horn, who is his next target. Whilst all this has been happening, we have also had a change to the lead. Wojciech Swierdajczyk has on this lap moved ahead of Mikey Doble. We will get a replay of that very shortly, but they have changed places, and there you can see Swierdajczyk now leading this race as they head on towards lap number 8 with Mikey Doble 4 tenths behind, and then it's Jaroslaw Cebula who is continuing to stay in the hunt here, but Doble being ahead, that's all Mikey Doble needs to do in order to push this championship more and more in his direction as they come down towards turn number 1 for the 8th time of asking, and we cut over to exactly what happened with regards to that pass by Swierdajczyk on Mikey Doble. As we look back to what happened is that right at the start of lap number 7, Swierdajczyk looking to the inside, Doble pinning him to the middle of the road. In the end, on the inside, 2 drivers gave enough space as they made the way through. They were 2 wide out of turn 1 into turn 2. It wasn't quite over then, but Swierdajczyk decided to go outside to inside here, and I get the feeling that Mikey decided to back out there knowing it wasn't worth the risk to try and force that battle all the way round. So that is how Swierdajczyk took the lead of this race on lap 7, and now he looks to try and pull away as they go deeper into the race distance. But as our drivers come on around and onwards towards the next couple of quarters will mean, well, we've got plenty of battling that's starting to build up just at the bottom end of the top 10. This is Isaac Doble at the inside of Ben Ultria, the Elantra driver, continuing to try and push for a top 10 finish. He's got the company of Jamie Dory just behind as they come down to the brakes, and well, Isaac Doble and Jamie Dory were in a little bit of an altercation in race number 1, as I was to find out from our race director when I called him outside the commentary booth when we were in the breather for race 1 into 2. And well, I can tell you right now that Isaac Doble, I think, just trying to get away from Dory after the elbows out racing in race number 1, which Jamie Dory might have something to say, albeit I don't think he's going to go his way in order to spoil the race, but the one thing he will definitely do, Jamie Dory, is he'll look to try and get back at his rival in touring car fashion as they make their way up towards turn number 1, and we ride on board here with Jamie Dory right in the slipstream here on the back of Ben Altrier's car, trying to give Altrier a little bit of a push along here, trying to give him some encouragement to go a little bit faster before he looks at the move, rather than try and force a move early. And I get the feeling that Dory's idea is if he can get what is Altrier to battle with Doble, and that gives him the opportunity to take 2 places the price of 1. But look at the difference in body language there. I don't know if you noticed it at home, but the fact that we did see Dory take a much more open line through the chicane there, whereas we had a tighter line for Altrier and Doble, and that shows that right now for Dory he's not quite comfortable with the run through the chicane. Also, he's got the dirty air and the lack of sight of the cars in front. That could also be a bit of an explanation, but it just seems though this Audi right now, not at least in the hands of Jamie Dory, wanting to take those raised curves as much as the rivals in front, and that is what's enabling a little bit of a gap to open up there through the first half of the lap as they come down into the braking zone for turn number 9. But through the left hand they go, and Dory just sliding a little bit loose there with that dirty air and the overspeed, but no signs of running wide as they head in towards turns where's 11 and 12. Coming into the braking zone and through the right into left. Well, these drivers continue to push each other all the way onto the next lap, and it's a good run out of the corner there from Altrier, intriguingly, albeit in the second phase of the acceleration zone at turns 12 into 13. That's where Doble was able to really open up the taps in that Audi. But here we come to 2 Hondas fighting, and that is Tom Davidson up the inside of Lee Horn. So Davidson goes to the move. Well, it's going to be Horn looking for the cutback, but I think Davidson absolutely nailing that under the braking, and Tom Davidson now moves into P6, and the Sim Racing Collective driver absolutely delivering a solid drive here, having started from P8. He's just gradually creeping his way forward here, 1 place at a time, but now he's got 2 seconds to close up to Benjamin McCluskey, and Horn may have something to say about this given the fact they've got quite a bit of a distance between themselves and their next set of rivals, so they can afford to battle if they so desire. But coming up towards the rise of turn number 6, we need to take a look back down towards the AM class here, as this is the AM battle for P2. Jonathan Collins is holding on to the aforementioned position, but it's Mark Sykes who's in pursuit. And in between them is the driver of Dan Mould, and Will Mould, of course, having that drive-through penalty for the jump start. He's made his way from what was P31 up into P26, and he's trying to get himself inside the top 23 to have an eligible chance of being in that reverse grid draw. But meanwhile, Marcel Fritsch is very close behind, and well, I believe we've had a bit of a moment. In fact, we've had Lewis Delmont have a big moment coming down into turn number 9. That's when you saw all the dust going up in the sky there from the distant camera view, as he now has rejoined, and he's down into P17, and I think he's going to lose more places there as he finds out what it's like to be on the outside of turn number 12, not the place you want to be. And Lewis Delmont now being marshalled all the way down to what is P22, well, P21. Callum Murray's a bit further back there in the rear of the picture, but Lewis Delmont losing out massively. And what exactly happened is the big question. Here's the replay, ladies and gentlemen, to explain. Well, this was coming down through turn 6 and 8, and look at the line there, just goes too high on the apex of turn 7. The car bounces around off the curb, and Lewis Delmont in the end becomes a passenger by the time he's got to the turn 8 apex. Thankfully, the car being caught by the gravel there. Can you imagine if it hadn't? It would have slid all the way to the tyre barrier, but Lewis Delmont rejoining and then find out with the dirty tyres and always rolls and the better pace at exit how you'd just be swamped by the cars around and losing the best part of 8 places there for one innocent mistake. But as we come back to the live racing, well, that does mean with what has been the misfortunes of Lewis Delmont, his next driver behind is Callum Murray, his teammate for SL NXTGEN Gold, who is your AM leader with Sam Smith absolutely nipping at his heels, and then it's Jonathan Collins who's the second place AM driver as they come on down onto the braking zone in the foreground. There's Andrew Pike battling hard with Alan McCain, gets another place, does Andrew Pike, to move up to P18. Well, Pike is picking up the places absolutely perfectly, having started all the way from P38. That's 20 places gained from Andrew Pike, and that's the most places we've ever seen gained here at Sandown in our 3 visits in the NXTCC history in a single race. Pike is absolutely flying out there right now, and well, whilst many would say, well, it's to be expected, he's a pro, the fact that right now Pike is making his way through a circuit where overtaking is possible, but it's not easy, well, that goes to show the number 57 driver has not given up, and he really does have that indomitable spirit. But he heads through turn 1 in towards turns 2 and 3. Meanwhile, and Callum Murray right now side by side with what is there none other than Dan Mould, and well, the 2 teammates having a little bit of a rubbing of the elbows there. Murray has lost out in the lead of the AM class to Jonathan Collins, in fact, and I believe that was his run wide at what was turn number 1. We did briefly see that, so Jonathan Collins has made his way into that position, and now that's the AM lead swapping hands, and Murray under pressure of Mark Sykes as Lewis Delmont going slow there coming out of turns 4 and 5. So Callum Murray just trying to charge onwards, and Mark Sykes looking for another opportunity to get into the attack. but as they come over the crest and down the hill they go. Well, from our drivers here in the long line of cars, well, meanwhile, we need to take a little bit further up the order. Well, in fact, we will second very shortly, because Dan Mould up the inside there, Sam Smith, makes it look like clockwork, and Smith not fighting it too hard. Dan Mould up in the P22, so now he's in the potential reverse grid spots, but he wants to get even higher here to try and guarantee it as much as possible, because it's anywhere from P13 to P23, and therefore Mould right now has a low chance of being eligible, but the higher he rises, the higher the opportunity will be. It's natural law of probability. But looking from them, let's come back to the front of the field, and we do start a perfect time, because Wojciech Swierdowicz, your race leader, is right now gradually starting to saunter away again, as Mikey Doble and Jaroslaw Cebula go toe-to-toe here as they come out of turns 4 into 5, and Doble right now with what is the heaviest car out of himself, and Cebula trying to hold on as we look back from the rear of the number 88, and this will have big implications in the championship standings going into race 3 and going into our season finale at Bathurst. And right now, all Mikey needs to do is finish ahead of Cebula. Cebula, meanwhile, needs to get ahead of Mikey in order to try and keep his opportunities alive as much as possible, given the fact the results have not gone the way for Cebula in race 1. And right now, things were to finish as they currently stand, it still would be Mikey Doble is gradually opening up more of a championship advantage before the season finale. But as they power their way out of the final quarter, onto lap number 14 they go. Your race leader, Swierdowicz, now half a second clear, but the big eyes are all on this battle here. As you can see in the rear of the picture, the next gen pit crew of what is there, also Gavin Gardner and Benjamin McCluskey, they're just waiting in the wings. They know that from their perspective, it would not do them well to get involved in this fight unless they can find a way for all three of them to get ahead of Mikey Doble. But here comes Cebula looking up the inside into turn 2. He decides not to go for it. It's just a little look. It's nothing more than that. And well, meanwhile, Gardner and McCluskey are going to play the ultimate team game here, which is they've just got to wait, watch, and see if an opportunity arises. And if they do see and Tom Davidson and Lee Horn catch up, well then they'll simply try to make sure that they can't have a role to play in this battle, and that Cebula is given every opportunity to try and take this place off of Mikey Doble. But right now it seems though the Audi RS3 driver is in full control here as they come down the hill through turns 6, 7, 8 and 9 onto the anchors. They'll go for turn number 9, and well, no change this time around, as meanwhile looking a bit further back, this is towards Mark Sykes, your third place AM driver. Has got Marcel Fritsch gradually closing on him, and Lewis Delman is between Sykes and Callum Murray, who is the second place AM driver, just a bit further up the road. You saw him briefly there in the camera shot, and Jonathan Collins meanwhile is running away. Craig Tillerson meanwhile further back, well he's in P28 trying to battle his way past Sam Smith, but Smith gets ahead there. The Pro-Am driver gets ahead of the Runner Academy at Elantra, and well Tillerson looking to make it back-to-back P5s in the AM class here if he were to finish where he currently sits, and that would be a great result there, with Sean Dobie trying to close up at 3.7 seconds behind. But the drivers continue to roar the way on through, and as they do, well, no changes further down the order, but we're still waiting for what is the fireworks to go off. And we'll speak of some fireworks here. Ben Ultrier trying to hold on to the P10. That's Wayne Douglas on the inside into turn 1. They give each other space. Ultrier rejoins the racing now, going into turn 2, and hard on the brakes they both go. Ultrier being really compressed the apex there. Both drivers not giving each other any breathing room whatsoever. Ultrier rejoins. Big elbows out there into the wall. The two drivers make contact all the way to the barrier there, and well, Ultrier won't be too pleased about that. He'll feel as though in the end he was elbowed out, and it made for what was a warranty for him to come back. And Douglas, meanwhile, we're looking at him thinking, how on earth did that end up the way it did? But as they head on up, Ultrier's car right now has been able to survive that, but I think there's a collapsed front right suspension, because I can see sparks falling off the back of the car, in fact falling from the front right tyre of the car. So therefore Ultrier's race may be ended in the pit lane very shortly. As meanwhile, whilst all that's happened, we look back to the front of the field. We've got one more lap to go as he comes out the final corner for lap number 15. On to lap 60 he goes, and Wojciech Swierdowicz leads, but look at this as they roar their way down towards turn number 1. Swierdowicz right now just trying to break the distant toe to Mikey Doble, and Doble under increasing pressure from Cebula as they roll their way into turn number 1. We ride on board looking down over the top of Jaroslaw Cebula's bonnet, and as we do, the number 25 driver here knows he's got to make an impact here. He's got to find a way through, as otherwise the points will go against him. But the problem is, where can he get through? Because they make the way out of turn number 4. Cebula's literally riding the rear bumper at Doble, but then here is the toe. It starts to work for Cebula, but that Audi is just so strong and in the draft as well as Swierdowicz. And right now, as much as Swierdowicz would perhaps not like to give the toe to his old teammate and also his old rival, well, the problem is that right now Mikey's absolutely siphoning it off the back of Swierdowicz's car, and that just gives him a couple extra miles now to feel safe as they come down through turns 6, 7, 8 and into 9. Cebula here hard on the brakes, but he's not close enough to think about making a move. It's all about just putting the pressure on all the way through to the final couple of quarters, as Swierdowicz now leads the quartet, in fact the quintet, in in towards what is turns 11 and 12. Through the right into left they go. They bunch up, but it'll be single file formation surely as they come out the final corner. And after a brilliant drive to victory in race number 1, Wojciech Swierdowicz is going to make it victory in race number 2 here as well at Sandown. Head of Mikey Doble, who just fends off Jaroslaw Cebula to the line. Gavin Gardner and Benjamin McCluskey complete your top 5 with Tom Davidson finishing P6 ahead of Lee Horn P7, Isaac Doble P8. Sam Van Ols will bring on home the prime win, his first prime win in a long time for Goldwyn Motorsport in the number 92 P9, and it'll be Jamie Dory P10 ahead of William Guthrie. Best of rest P11. Ben Gregory will come on home. I don't think he's going to quite believe this, to take the run-up spot in the prime class P16 overall. Head of Kieran Smart, who's found his way into the prime podium P3 in class. Stuart Winus there with a critical P4, and Jonathan Collins, meanwhile, in the AM class with a P20 overall, takes victory in the AM class for Next Gen Orange Whiskey runners, ahead of Callum Murray, who makes it back-to-back P2s in the AM class with a P22 for SO and Next Gen Gold, and then it will be Mark Sykes, who makes it back-to-back P3s in the AM class there for Next Gen Orange Whiskey runners, and P24 overall as well. And goodness me, what a race, ladies and gentlemen, as the last off finishers come to line, including their Lewis Mason and also Gabriel Ilmaz in 2 Aztec racing cars that have definitely been knocked about quite a bit in this race. Well, it's definitely been a race whereby a lot played out over the course of the 16-lap distance, a few major incidents, a few unfortunate shunts, but also some fantastic racing, and the results here today could have some big implications going into race number 3 in terms of how the championship stands hang up, and we will see that at the end of today's racing. But Wojciech Swierdowicz once again leading the way, but it is Mikey Doble with that P2. Well, now knowing that another result like that in race number 3, or if he can finish ahead of Cebula, it could be the dream coming true for title number 4 when we do head to Bathurst. As Cebula, meanwhile, just not quite able to find a way to out-edge his title rival in the Pro-Am class. Meanwhile, Stuart Winus with a P4 finish in the class, P19 overall. He's put himself firmly inside the potential draw position for that reverse grid, and could some luck be turning in the tyre for Stuart Winus? That will be on his mind, as Jonathan Collins also into the pit lane. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for us to go through those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries, and here they are. So after an exciting race number 2 to keep the tempo going from where we left off in race number 1, we did see in race 2 of round number 9 of season 8 of the NXTCC powered by Doble Motorcycles. It was Semper Racing's Wojciech Swierdowicz who's made it 2 wins out of 2. Double Sim Racing's Mikey Doble run up once again in the number 88 by what was 3 attempts ahead of Jaroslaw Cebula, who hunted and hounded Mikey all the way to that checker flag, but there was no way he was going to be able to find a way in, with the Next Gen Pink driver in the end being followed up by his teammates Gavin Gardner and Benjamin McCluskey, who were patient and know they had to give Jaroslaw every opportunity to try and make that move happen. Outside the top 5, Tom Davidson was P6 for the Sim Racing Collective in a fantastic drive to fight his way through to just be off of the top 5, and then it was Lee Horn at P7 there for Next Gen Orange Whiskey runners, only 3 tenths behind, but in turn 3 seconds ahead of Isaac Doble for Doble Sim Racing. Sam Van Ols took the prime win at P9 for Goldwyn Motorsport ahead of Jamie Dory, who wrapped up the top 10 for Next Gen Pink. There was a further 3 seconds to best the rest William Guthrie for Doble Motorsport, who in the end finished ahead of his teammate Ben Altria, with the 2 drivers carving their way through, just missing out on the top 10, because it does mean they take no success ballast into the final race of the day, and you never know, that could be very important for them, and could we see them achieve a major result in race 3. Alex Meredith took P13. He'll be the last of the drivers who'll be guaranteed to be in that reverse grid, given that's the lowest position we can draw from for Next Gen Orange Whiskey runners. And then Joe Doble was P14 for Doble Sim Racing, ahead of Andrew Pike, who round off the overall top 15 there for the Sim Racing Collective. And again, starting P38, Andrew Pike fought his way through all the way to 15th. What a drive there. One of the best drives of the season for the 57 driver as a whole, not just in relation to him, but from any driver we have seen, if not in the NXTCC's history. P16 went the way of the prime runner-up of Ben Gregory for Full Tilt Motorsport, and what a turnaround of results that was. But he'll also know that the Track Scotland crew are chasing him, with Track Scotland's Kieran Smart round off the prime podium P17. Dan Mould was P18 for SO and Next Gen Gold, and we did see the top 20 completed there by Stuart Winus with 4th place in the prime class, turning a different form compared to what happened in race 1, and then it was P20 to your AM winner of Jonathan Collins, the Next Gen Orange Whiskey Runners driver, taking the lead and never looking back. Alan McCain was P21, separating Collins from his 2nd place rival in the AM class, of Callum Murray for SRL NXTGEN Gold, and there was Lewis Delmont separating Murray from the third place AM finisher of Mark Sykes there, making it back-to-back third places on the AM podium for NXTGEN Orange Whiskey runners. Marcel Fritsch was P25 ahead of Sam Smith, with then the top 30 being completed by Craig Tillerson, Sean Doble, Andy Fox and Kevin Smith. Lewis Mason was P31, the last of the lead lap finishers, and then we did see finishing a lap down Wayne Douglas, Michael Lees, Gabriel Yilmaz, Duncan Reyes, and then the unfortunate retirements for Dylan Hunter, Nick Lewins, and Sammy Ariba. So 38 starters, ladies and gentlemen, 35 finishers, of which we did see 31 finish on the lead lap. And that keys us up nicely then going into our final race of the day, because we've had two absolutely thrilling races so far. But of course, race number 3 always has a little bit of magic and mystery about it, because it does have that all-important reverse grid thrown into the mix. And without further ado, we do cut to the commentary booth. Good evening to you all, and I hope you're all enjoying the races so far, as I am here in the commentary booth. And I tell you one thing, it's nice and warm down under in Australia for our drivers, but it's very cool here in the commentary booth in the UK. But without further ado, we do have our NXTGEN Racing Lottery Bowl here, and as always, we have our balls 6 through to 12 in the bowl. I can promise you, I've double-checked them, and we're hopefully not going to see 6 and 12 again like we did last time out, because if it was 3 in a row, then I might as well go buy a Millionaire's Lottery ticket. But shortly I will close my eyes, shuffle the balls, and draw 2 out, and then we will announce where the grid will be reversed from for our final race of the day. So without further ado, let's do the draw. And there's our initial shuffle. And we take our first ball out of the bowl. And our first ball tonight, it's not the number 6. Instead, it's going to be the number 7. So we're starting off with low numbers once again. We really have had the lowest set of numbers time and time again this season. In fact, I don't think we've had anything higher than P18 so far in the reverse grid. But what will be joining P7 to add to our final tally? Let's do a shuffle. And let's take the draw. And going with the number 7 for tonight, it is going to be the number 9. This combination has happened once this season. It happens again. And 9 plus 7 equals 16, which means it's a top 16 reverse grid. And Ben Gregory finds himself on reverse grid pole position for the final race of the day. And he's in the company of Andrew Pike, who has earned himself the spot on the front row of the grid after that fantastic drive from 38th through to 15th. Well, ladies and gentlemen, could we see Pike run away to take victory in the final race of the day? Could we see Ben Gregory hold on to a prime win, which give him a huge boost versus Stuart Winus in the Prime Championship before Bathurst? Well, for all that and more, we'll be back in approximately 7 to 8 minutes' time to find out how the racing concludes here today at Sandown. But until then, a word from our title sponsor, Doble Motorcycles. We will see you very shortly. If you are looking to buy your next two-wheeled machine or ATV, why not consider Doble Motorcycles? Home to an expansive full range of Honda motorcycles, scooters, off-road bikes and ATVs, Doble Motorcycles is the UK's leading Honda motorcycle dealer. However, do not just take our word for it. Having won numerous awards over the years, including 3 Motorcycle News Dealer of the Year awards, and being nominated for many more, including Honda Dealer of the Year 4 times, the Doble family-run business prides itself on customer service, and it shows. Add to this the family's rich racing history through 3 generations, as currently embodied by Mikey Doble Racing, with Mikey chasing glory in the BTCC, and you can be certain that you will receive excellent customer service from lights out to checkered flag. So if you'd like to know more, check out their website today at doble.co.uk. Speaking of Mikey Doble Racing, if you'd like to support Mikey as he pushes it to the limit out on track, you can do so by following the Mikey Doble Racing Facebook page as seen on screen. Additionally, if you want to represent the 88 Army at a BTCC weekend, Mikey Doble Racing has some fantastic merchandise available just for you, as may be found either via the Mikey Doble Racing Facebook page or alternatively in the Doble Motorcycle store at dobledirect.co.uk. Don't miss out on being a part of the 88 Army today. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, one last time today here in our penultimate round of the season in round number 9 of Season 8 of the NXTCC, brought to you on iRacing and powered by Doble Motorcycles. That's right, it's time for race number 3 of 3, and well, this man in particular finds himself on reverse grid pole. Ben Gregory there, and what is his first reverse, well, not his first, his third reverse grid pole of the season. We've been keeping track, and the 113 driver has been very, very fortunate over the course of this season to be able to pick up more reverse grid pole positions in race 3 compared to anybody else. Now, is it lady luck, or is he just a man who exactly knows where to put himself? Well, I get the feeling it is more lady luck than anything else, because otherwise, if he was able to predict the future like that, well, I'd love for him to predict lottery numbers for me. I can tell you that, ladies and gentlemen. But Ben Gregory finding the exact place to put himself there, and we'll be hoping to go a little bit further over the course of this one. But speaking of what is his thoughts on the perspective, well, why don't we try and get a little bit of a word from him if we can? Can we get a patch through to the car of Ben Gregory? I think we can, ladies and gentlemen. And well, without further ado, we are going to get a word with him here on board. Where's the Hyundai Elantra? And give us a brief moment. And as we get a patch through to the car, Ben, have you got time for a quick word?
Yeah, sure.
Ben, this is your third reverse grid pole in a race 3 over the course of this season. You've had more than anybody else. I know we joke about it, but I mean, surely at this point, I've got to be asking you to buy me my lottery tickets.
Trust me, if I was this lucky with a lottery, I would do it a lot more often. No, I'm very excited. Like, I just thought it was funny. I got a hat trick for it. Like, I was joking about it. Like earlier on in the season, like, oh, just missing out. But no, I didn't expect to get it again. I was expecting maybe to be like P5.
Oh, indeed, and now it's there. I mean, race number 3, you've got Andrew Pike alongside you. The pair of you have fought your way through adversity in races 1 and 2 to now get to that front row of the grid. What can we expect for yourself in this final race?
Not to die. That's all I want to do. I just need to get to the end. Like, this championship is a lot closer than I thought. I did not expect to be in P2 in the championship coming into any round at all. So yeah, I'm just going to try my best, try and get as many points to the lead to Stuart as I can and survive, I think is going to be the key question, especially with the weight.
That's absolutely fair. It's a game of survival then. Well, Ben, we'll let you get your head down and focus on race 3, and we'll see you at the checkered flag.
Thank you so much.
We're leaving at Ben Gregory there, ladies and gentlemen. To his faults and to get his head down, but saying it's all about survival. And I get the feeling that is a very fair assessment, given the surprising moment there and the fact, admitting that he wasn't as aware of the fact of how close he is in the championship battle with what is Stuart Winus, and therefore that could be a big factor as well. And the fact he's been taking it quite casually compared to perhaps where he would feel he would be at this point in time. And with that in mind, it may be now that the gloves come off a little bit and he decides to go all in order to try and end with that championship crown at Bathurst. But of course, he's got to close the gap, and well, with the fact that he starts on the front row, meanwhile Stuart Winus is started towards with the bottom end of the top 20, it's a prime opportunity. But drivers like Lewis Delmont will also be looking for opportunities out there as the checker flag comes out, ladies and gentlemen. It's the end of practice. It's time to head to the grid for the final time today. And as our drivers make their way onto the grid, this is how they'll line up for our final race of round 9. It is Ben Gregory who takes the top 16 at reverse grid pole for Full Tilt Motorsport. He's joined on the front row of the grid, the prime driver, by the pro of Andrew Pike, who having made his way all the way to the front of the field now, surely he'll be looking for nothing less than overall victory for the Sim Racing Collective. On row at number 2, it's Joe Doble for Doble Sim Racing, who fought well in order to be onto this second row of the grid, and Alex Medif joins him there, the Next Gen Orange Whiskey Runners driver, who's definitely had an Elantra where they've had to get the hammers out after race number 2 in order to buff out all the dents, but I get the feeling the number 19 driver will be hoping that he can have a less bumpy race to wrap up his proceedings. Then on row at number 3, it's Ben Altrier for Full Tilt Motorsport ahead of teammate William Guthrie, and well, Full Tilt Motorsport could be on course for a huge teams points haul here in this race, given that they've got all 3 of their drivers inside the top 10, with Jamie Dory lined up behind William Guthrie there, P7 for Next Gen Pink, ahead of Sam Van Ols for Goldwyn Motorsport, your second place pro am driver. Isaac Doble lines up P9 for Doble Sim Racing ahead of Lee Horn for Next Gen Orange Whiskey Runners Racing. And then we do have Tom Davidson at P11 there, best of the rest of the Sim Racing Collective ahead of Benjamin McCluskey for Next Gen Pink. And then do have on row number 7 Gavin Garner for NXTGEN Pink ahead of his teammate Jaroslaw Cebula. The trio all together there, and it's all going to be for those three to try and work together to fend off what is the charge of Mikey Doble for Doble Sim Racing, whilst enabling Jaroslaw Cebula to move forward. Speaking of Mikey Doble, he starts P15 ahead of Wojciech Swierdijk, who completes the top 16 reversal for Semper Racing. Can he make it 3 wins out of 3? Well, nobody's made it from P16 to take victory this season in race number 3, but could Swierdijk, even with the success ballast, prove otherwise? And then in P17 we have Kieran Smart the track Scotland, and the Scottish driver there will know that he's got all the pressure on for him and his teammate in the fact they need to go hunting for the primes much further up the field. However, between him and his teammate, you've got Dan Mould starting P18 for SO and NXTGEN Gold, and then we have on row number 10 Stuart Winers for track Scotland, and Jonathan Collins, your AM pole sitter and winner of race number 2 for NXTGEN Orange Whiskey Runners Racing. From them, it's then on row number 11, Alan McCain for iRacing Esports and Callum Murray for SO NXTGEN Gold in an AM class that's definitely generated some fireworks today, and Callum Murray would love to make it 3 P2s in a row, but surely he can add a win to those 2 second places. And then on row number, 13? Row number 12 in fact, let's not get ahead of ourselves. It's Lewis Delmont for SO NXTGEN Gold, and then it's Mark Sykes for NXTGEN Orange Whiskey Runners Races starting P24. And then on row 13, we come to Marcel Fritsch for Rhino Academy, who has had mixed fortunes so far today after a great win in race 1, a more placid result for P4 in class in race number 2. What can we expect from him in race 3? Could he go for victory? Well, the Verano Academy driver will definitely want it if he wants to try and put that title well out of everybody else's reach, and he's got Sam Smith alongside him starting P26 for iRacing Esports. Then it's the Verano Academy driver Craig Tillerson P27 ahead of Sean Dovey for ATX Tech Racing. We have top 30 completed by Andy Fox for Goldwyn Motorsport and Verano Academy's Kevin Smith. We then have on row number, 16, Lewis Mason for Aztec Racing starting P31 ahead of Wayne Douglas for Douglas Motorsport. And then we do have Michael Leese on the 17th rider grid for JW Motorsport ahead of Gabriel Yilmaz for Aztec Racing. With Duncan Ryan P35 for Goldwyn Motorsport ahead of Dylan Hunter for DH Racing. And on the final row of the grid, to complete our 38 starters, it's Nick Clemens for iRacing Esports and Sammy Ariba for Quartermass Motorsport. Both drivers with it all to do from the back of the field. But to be fair, we've seen drivers come through the field over the course of this one, and I can see there in the YouTube chat Matt Acton saying it's Andrew Pikes to lose. Well, as we look towards the front of the field, you can see there on the right of your screen Ben Gregory for Full Tooth Motorsport. On the left, Andrew Pike, and well, the Sim Racing Collective driver will be eager to make that progress as soon as possible, but Gregory will have other ideas surely, as these two are all set and ready to go race. And the lights are going on, ladies and gentlemen. The headlights are on as well as the sun descends here at Sandown. And as it's a showdown at Sandown then, it's going to be 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go for the final race of the day. Ben Gregory there gets a slow start as Andrew Pike immediately launches into the lead as they come on down. The field fans out behind as they all look to try and make progress on one another into turn 1. And under braking there, well, Andrew Pike takes the leader's race. Ben Altrier battling side by side with teammate William Guthrie. They want to fight for too long. They want to settle who's going to take the lead of the two of them as they come into the chicane. But as the rest of the field now begins to gradually concertina on through, we see there Gavin Garner side by side with Wojciech Swierdijk. Garner having a very slow start by comparison with some of his rivals and being left behind there compared to the NXTGEN Pink Crew as they made their way out of turn number 4. But everyone's safely on through the opening few corners. Jonathan Collins as well dropping 2 places. In fact, falls backwards. Meanwhile, Marcel Fritsch there elbowed out slightly as he tries to go around the outside of Mark Sykes in the run up the hill. The Honda driver here looking to make some early progress as Jonathan Collins has held on to lead the M class, but he's got Callum Murray close behind. And then Sykes versus Fritsch, where you're going to have a Sam Smith interference as they come over the rise and down in towards turn number 6. Into the left hand they go. And Fritsch backs out. I think sensible 9. He doesn't need to overinvest into those braking zones there. One segues down, but there's a big snap loose, and that is going to be a Vard Academy car, and it kicks off. Well, it's a domino effect there, a chain reaction I was trying to say as I stumbled over my words, and in the end that's Craig Tillerson coming very loose and setting off that major incident there, completely of his own volition, but everyone else coming to the scene of the incident. But as we look from them back towards the front of the field, after one lap it is Andrew Pike, He's trying to roar away now as he opens up a gap of almost a second after the open lap ahead of Ben Gregory P2, your prime leader. Then it's Joe Doble, followed by Ben Altrier, Alex Reddiff P5 ahead of William Guthrie. Then we do have Jamie Dory P7 ahead of Sam Vanolst, your second place prime driver. Isaac Doble P9, Lee Horn P10, Benjamin McCluskey P11, and that's your best of the rest rundown. But then we do have in what is P3 of the prime class, well, this is Stuart Winers, who has found his way ahead of Lewis Delmont and Kieran Smart, and in fact Lewis Delmont is between the two Track Scotland drivers, so it's a quick switch and a full fortunes there for his Winus and Smart, but the fact that Winus has jumped the 2 places, Lewis Delmont meanwhile hasn't moved up at all in class, and then it's Kieran Smart who's lost 2. Well, that's a very odd one there, but still, as they made the way up through, Kieran Smart will try and come back and try and support Stuart as much as he can by getting in the way of Lewis Delmont as much as humanly possible. Lewis Delmont won't be thinking about the championship, he'll be thinking about just trying to simply take another podium, and a big result as they come down the hill this time. But as they do, oh my goodness, and Gavin Garner comes loose into the barrier, the car comes across, taps the rear of Kieran Smart's car, and Smart gets away with what was an absolutely huge near miss. Meanwhile, that is a huge shunt to the front bumper of Callum Murray, who comes out the corner and in the end finds a face full of Gavin Gardner, and Callum Murray's race suddenly goes backwards there, and Gavin Gardner just loses it under what is a cooling circuit in the Audi, and it's so easy to make the mistake, and in the end all going wrong there. And well, as our drivers roar the way through, well, that was a surprise, a huge one to be certain, and not a welcome one, as our drivers make the way onwards towards the next lap. But as they do, a bumper comes flying off there. I think that's off of the car of what was none other than Sam Smith. That's finally just been peeled away, but some more battling here into turn 1. That's Sean Doble looking up the inside of Marcel Fridge, as now Doble moves into P3 in the AM class here. Sean Doble is absolutely attacking. It's wonderful to see the Scotsman here now getting into the podium fight, and well, it's been a long time since we've seen him on the grid. It's been a long time since we've seen him fighting for the podium place in the AM class, but he's doing both here today in the final race. But as they roar the way onwards, meanwhile, looking from them, we need to take a look back at what exactly happened only moments ago to Craig Tillerson on the opening lap, and here's the replay. And coming down the hill, you'll notice there on a slightly offline, the car snaps loose coming through 7, and in the end just triggers off the chain reaction behind us. Everyone Constantina's in behind him, and one unpleasant surprise, and well, a nasty one there. And I think afterwards Craig Tillerson will be kicking himself for that, but no, when it all went wrong, there was nothing else he could do. A lap later, we had Gavin Gardner coming over the rise here, and well, a very similar moment, albeit the car snapping loose over the curb of turn 7. You can see it bounce down off there into the barrier, held the brakes on as much as he could, but the car in the end, just a passenger in the car, and almost clipping Kieran Smart, and almost taking the race of Kieran Smart to what had been the pit lane for repair. But coming back to your live racing pictures, and as we do, well, we've still got plenty of time in this race to go, and we look back towards the front of the field as Joe Doble now fighting with Ben Altria. 2 wide they go into the chicane, and coming out of the corner, Joe Doble makes his way into P3, and there's Alex Meredith also trying to edge his way past what is Ben Altria with William Guthrie having to watch on behind, and the full Tilty Motorsport pair are absolutely being swarmed here by drivers around them. They just can't seem to click things together as they head up the hill. You can see Altria and Guthrie holding right now with the 2 wide formation practically in order to try and stop Jamie Dory from thinking about going through, and Dory's not going to try and put his nose in there to make it 3 wide. That's for certain as they come on down, but right now this is compromising because Altria has to cut the apex curve of 7. Surely that's going to be a slowdown for the fact he's breached track limits. If it's not, and he's deemed to have not gained any time, we'll be breathing a big sigh of relief, because right now Jamie Dory will be all over the back of him, and that is only going to compound the woes of the full Tilty Motorsport Pro drivers, simply because they just do not seem to have the pace here compared to other rounds in the championship. Meanwhile, Ben Gregory is still flying up front in P2, but right now for the rest of the team, it's going backwards slowly, and everybody can see an opportunity to capitalise. Whilst they're battling, however, Lee Horn back battling here with Tom Davidson. They fought a lot in race number 2 over what was the first of the place outside the top 5 in P6, and right now they're fighting over what is P11 as Horn looks on the inside, Davidson on the outside there. The 2 Honda drivers go 2 wide into turn 1, but Davidson gets ahead just about of the run through the apex, and that's where he'll stay is ahead of Horn as they come through turns 2 and 3, but definitely get in very, very close and deep between them as they roar the way out of turn number 4, and almost there run to the wall from Davidson as he got a little bit eager on the throttle pedal, and I think the car almost understeering his way to the barrier. But as they head up the rise in the AM class, I can tell you that Jonathan Collins has now settled into the AM lead in P19. He's got Sam Smith, Kieran Smart and Wayne Douglas between himself and second place AM driver Mark Sykes, and Sykes meanwhile has got a growing pack of cars between himself and what is the leader, and he's also got a growing pack of AMs behind him, which is in the form of Sean W and Marcel Fridge. You'll see Andy Fox and Dylan Hunter on the back of that, and we look back to Dylan Hunter, the man who slides his way down into turn 6. So right now the DH Racing driver, oh my goodness, was that Fox? That was Fox and Hunter. It's clipped by the wayward Fox as now Hunter's car comes to the barrier, and Dylan Hunter, that is heartbreak as he was charging his way on through, and Andy Fox right now, it's all gone wrong, and this time Andy Fox, he just cannot get a break, the number 21 driver. What exactly happened? Well, here's the replay, ladies and gentlemen, from the exterior pictures coming over the rise onto the brakes into 7, much like what happened to Gavin Gardner, drops too much onto that curb, and well, in the end it's a passenger of the car, and Dylan Hunter just happens to be in the wrong place at the right time to be collected. And Andy Fox, I can only imagine the frustration frustration. I would imagine he's punching that steering wheel right now in absolute fuming humiliation of the fact that things have not gone right at all for the last few rounds. He's only had the one result in race one at Thruxton in the last, what will be effectively 6 rounds of this season where things have gone his way, but otherwise it has gone wrong time and time again. And at some point a driver has got to break over it. It does things to you, I can tell you that from experience. And meanwhile, that is a very liberal use of the apex there at turn number 6, and Jamie Dory exploring the rallycross line there, and Ben will retake the place. I think Dory and to back off and give the place back through fear of picking up a slowdown penalty, but Jamie Dory definitely gets him very eager with the approach to the corners. They come down into turns 11 and 12, but as they do further back, Jaroslaw Cebula try to keep Lee Horn behind as they roar the way through what is turns 11, 12 and up towards 13. Cebula up into P12, but keeping in mind that Mikey Doble is still behind at this point. You can see Doble there in the rear of the picture, down in what is P15. So therefore Cebula will be clawing back some points here, but not as much as he would like unless Doble goes further back. But speaking of Mikey doing some battling of his own, that's Stuart Wine is trying to go around the outside. The third place prime driver looking at an opportunity in order to try and take on the Pro 3-time champion. Can't quite find his Dylan Hunter, meanwhile, being what is there the best part of the lap down now, just trying to step out the way of all of the other cars, and well, as they roll the way on through, well, now just trying to be smart about it as they head onwards towards what will be at turn number 6. As they roll the way up the rise, it is still going to be close to finish drivers, no doubt about that, but it is all to play for here between the drivers as they roar onwards towards what will be the rise of turn number 6, and always towards the halfway point of this race as they come on down and around. Through the left-hander he goes, does Doble, and as he does so, well, from them we look a little bit further inside the top 10, and Jamie Dory now exchanging blows here with what is Ben Altria, still trying to fight and trying to find his way through is Dory. Hard on the brakes, he goes at number 13, outside to inside, through at the last 2 major corners, and Dory here not able to extend the exit of the corner. That means Altria will get the better exit initially. But this is where you'll see the Audi start to build up that overspeed as they roar the way on down. It's literally a drag race here, and the Lantra now started to fall back a little bit by what is 500ths there. Also being given a push there by Isaac Doble, intriguingly. So Isaac trying to help Dory over through to gain the place of his own, but gets very close on a break in there, and Dory is pushed into P6, but Isaac Doble almost collecting the pair of them, and will run to the right limit as that behind them, meanwhile, is none other than what I believe is Sam Bernals, your prime second place driver, who is trying to find his way through, or at least follow this pack through the chase after Ben Gregory. But Bernals right now keeping his head down here and really trying to just simply not perturb the pros too much, but at the same time will hold his positions as well as he can. But as they head up the rise and onwards towards what will be at turn 6 this time, will throw that Lee Horn has got the battle side by side with Cebula here. Cebula's made his way to P12, but the problem is Horn's still there in the battle of the two Hondas. Two very strong drivers here in their respective machines, and Horn in the end decides to back out 9-2 wide. Does not go well down to turn 7 and 8 as the whole field now gets very close there. Everyone tapping front nose to rear bumper, and well, Wine is in the end holding on to P3 in the prime class, but he's got Lewis Delmont for close company. As we look back from the rear of what is number 61 Elantra, there is Lewis Delmont looking very eager to make some progress as they roll off the apex curve at turns what is 11-12, and Lewis Delmont gets a little bit too eager with the throttle pedal there as he exits, almost hits the barrier and will just about misses it, but that is going to enable Alan McCain to get into the mix here as they roar the way down. And can McCain go around the outside? Well, for Alan, he'll be hoping he can do so, given it's going to be a race where he tries to salvage something out of proceedings here today. Onto the brakes they go, but Lewis Delmont sticks it in, and well, much like the rivalries we've seen in previous seasons, particularly in what was seasons 1 through to 3 of the NXTCC between Adam Delmont and Alan McCain, well, now you are seeing it from what is Lewis Delmont and Alan McCain. So right now, Alan, well, you think the father and son are just like each other. Meanwhile, what on earth has happened there to Tom Davidson? A car should be pointing that way round, coming out of turn number 4, but Tom Davidson's gone all the way round. Now, was he aided on his adventure? That's the big question. Well, he starts to turn it round, but there's more cars to come. Let's get a replay and find out. Well, this is making his way in towards turn number 4, then battling side by side with Sam Vernals. Vernals cuts into the nose there a little bit. Now, was there contact? Well, that camera would suggest that Vernals came across and Davidson clipped him, and then in return there was the chain reaction effect of Vernals trying to get the car together. But let's take a look back and ride on board and listen. and there was a tiny tap there. You could see it as he came down off the apex curb. Davison not meaning to. They gave each other enough racing room, but Davison just slightly creeping off of that curb and understeering. But Van Olst in the end, in a car that was unsettled, were trying to get it back together in the end, re-tapped Davison, and that's what sent Davison around to the wall. So Tom Davison in the end coming off the worst as a result of those 2 taps between the 2 drivers. But I think they'll agree after the race there was nothing much more they could do about it. And well, right now, number 42 driver 9, he's got it all to do after what's been 2 great races so far. But race number 3 may be a stretch and a bridge too far. But from your live pictures here, we do look back to your race leader from one Sim Racing Collective car that's in woes to one Sim Racing Collective car that is flying high right now. And Andrew Pike 6 seconds clear and absolutely roaring off into the distance. As meanwhile, Joe Doble in P2. Well, right now he's got himself ahead of Ben Gregory quite recently, as I'm hearing in my ear that Tom Davidson's had to come into the pit lane for repair work to the car. They've done a quick repair and he's actually going back out once again to see what he can salvage out of this race. But if we were to see a safety car, that will be his mentality here, that a safety car could completely turn this the other way round. But meanwhile, Joe Doble in P2 and then Ben Gregory, your prime leader, in P3. Well, he was only looking to survive this race, he mentioned in the pre-race interview, but right now Gregory doing that and more as he's looking for an oval podium as well as the prime win as they head on to lap number 11. We're charging away past our static camera there and up towards the opening corner. Well, from then we look back to Marcel Fritsch as he continues to charge after Mark Sykes, P2 in the AM class. But Fritsch has got the growing company behind him of what is there, Kieran Smart, as Smart trying to recover something out of this race. We'll be able to get the feeling here and maybe some time as they roar the way upwards. And well, as they head in towards this lap, Mark Sykes right now be just trying to look forward rather than backwards in terms of making progress, as meanwhile Sam Smith and Wayne Douglas getting very touchy-feely there coming into what was turns 2 and 3, and out of the corner Sam Smith is missing his front bumper and plenty more on the front of that car, and Wayne Douglas is just trying to drag race his way on past here in what is the Hyundai Veloster for Douglas Motorsport, which was on the right now on the left of your picture. Meanwhile Sam Smith, as he makes his way up the riser on the outside into turn number 6, Wayne Douglas is surely going to get ahead with Smith having that extra drag on the front of the car with the missing front bumper and also the nose pieces, and that does mean that Wayne Douglas takes P19, and meanwhile Sykes and Fritsch now follow on through in the coming run. But from them, well, meanwhile we've had, oh my goodness, is that Stuart Winess? That is a huge moment. The Track Scotland car is in the gravel down at turn number 9. No, I think there might have been a bit of a touch with Alan McCain, because I'm hearing in my ear that the 2 drivers have had to come in together, but for Stuart Winess, who brings it back together, well, as he brings it back together, the thing is now for the 61 driver is this will not do, and Ben Gregory, he won't be aware of it right now, but if Gregory finishes the race where he does and Stuart Winess doesn't get anything, he's got to come into the pits for repair work, then this is going to completely reset the championship battle going to Bathurst. But let's take a look back at what exactly happened. This is Stuart Winess as he came on down onto the brakes into the corner. Oh my goodness, and that is a huge knot, and Alan McCain coming roaring into the stride of Winess, but I suspect there might have been a bit more than meets the eye. Can we get a view from Lewis Delmont's perspective? Let's ride on board. And Lewis Delmont tapping the rear of Alan McCain and setting off a chain reaction that sent Stuart Winess round as well as Alan McCain was speared into him. Well, Lewis Delmont there will know that based on what's played out, well, he might be called to the stewards room after the racing, and that's the perspective we got from Lewis Delmont's car, and well, we'll have to wait to see, but that's for the stewards to look into after the race. And what a frustrating month there for Stuart Winess. He won't know, of course. He'll probably be thinking, if he noticed it was Alan McCain, he'll think it might have been Alan's fault, but in fact it looks as though the story may be quite a bit different. But thankfully that's why we're in the Contour booth. We don't have all the camera angles, and that's what our stewards do. Well, as Winess roars his way up the rise, well, meanwhile we come back to the live race and we look to Alex Meredith, who's holding on to P4 and well trying to keep William Guthrie behind him as they head in towards turn number 1. Onto the brakes, they get ready to go, and as they battle their way in, as I look up the inside there from Guthrie trying to get Meredith to go a bit deep, Meredith does so, but the Elantra driver just simply holding him firm, and given the fact we've got cooler track temperatures now, well, for Alex Meredith, that's going to give him the confidence to feel as though he can now push the car a little bit further, and those tyres aren't going to be as vulnerable, because you can see there our track temperatures come all the way down from what was 47 degrees centigrade in qualifying earlier today, all the way down now to a much more pleasant 28 degrees centigrade, and that is where the Elantra will start to really feel strong in the fact that he won't be losing that front tyre life. We know the Elantra is very hard in its front tyres compared to its peers. All these cars are their front engine front wheel drive. The front tyres will take the brunt of the work, but the key point being the Elantra does go a little little bit harder for what is its mastery over a single lap and over race distance. But Meredith there, well, he didn't quite master turn number 9, gets it stopped just in time, and well, in the rear of the picture, that's a runway from Isaac Doble, just about makes turn number 9, but Meredith continues to be pushed on here by Guthrie as they go from right into left and go on to what will be the final 3 laps of racing here at Sandown International Motor Speedway. As they come towards the timeline, we'll see Guthrie look for a move this time around as we jump on board with number 36. And as he roars his way along here, well, not close enough, and that Elantra, he is gradually closing on it, given the slipstream, but nowhere near enough to think about moving to turn 1. And if he's going to have to try and goad a mistake out of Meredith, given that Meredith seems to be in the zone, and when he is, well, Meredith is one of the stronger drivers out there, one of the stronger up-and-coming pro drivers, and we've seen that all the way through his NXTCC career, ever since he made his debut in the Prime class. Well, where he is on a good roll, there's nothing that stops Alex Meredith, but it's those times when he hasn't quite got himself locked into that mindset, that's when it all really falls apart. He's one of those drivers who needs things to be perfect, but when he does so, there's nobody who's going to stop him on a good day as they roar the way up behind it with Ben Gregory there, who right now seems to be giving a little bit of a toe to Meredith and is falling back into the clutches, and Will Guthrie just watching on but can't attack. And then we look back to your AM leader here, Jonathan Collins, the NXTGEN Orange Whiskey Runners driving the 1-2-3 Veloster, and well, he's got there a very impatient Sam Smith trying to make his way through into turn 6. Smith thinks about it. Mark Sykes and Marcel Fritsch are not too far behind, so Collins right now really becoming a bit of a cork in the proverbial bottle of cars as they all come down into turn 9. Collins goes a bit deep. Well, that enables Smith to get to the outside of him into turn 11 if it does, and that's going to be a big opportunity here for Smith to try and get on through. You can see Sykes and Fritsch just waiting in the wings. Smith's going to go all in. Collins is forced to go a bit high on that apex curve at turn number 11. There's a bit of contact between the two drivers. It's not over between them yet, and Collins is still sticking in this. Marcel Fritsch, meanwhile, will follow Mark Sykes on the outside line. You can see the AMs now all tucked into the outside. Smith, meanwhile, on what is the centre of the road. Collins comes across to cover him off, but here comes Sykes as well. So Sykes is going to try and go around the outside. The pair of them. What on earth's happened there? Sykes has hit the barrier. Sykes in the barrier. That is collected. What is Kieran Smart? And I think their Sykes may have just misanticipated the fact that the tyre barrier also comes across, and it comes across down towards the pit lane exit by the looks of things. That I'm not sure if there was contact between Smith and also the rest of the group, but what I can tell you is that Sykes and Smart have had a collection together, and well, that has been a huge moment between them, and that's going to completely break up that battle impact as Sean Doby now comes on through and just snags what surely has got to be P3 in the AM class here. We'll have to wait and see if that's the way it materialises, but right now the 8-Tech Racing driver, I think, is not going to believe it next time he comes around and finds out he's in 3rd place in class. But from him, we look to the front of the field, and here is Andrew Pike, who goes on to one more lap here today, and having led this race since the open lap after taking the lead of a Ben Gregory, well, right now with a 6.8 second gap for Andrew Pike, surely this has got to be a win come true. Of course, it's not over yet. He's still got one more lap to go, and he'll gradually negotiate his way on around here, knowing he doesn't need to push it hard. Meanwhile, in P4, we do have Alex Meredith all over the back now. Ben Gregory with William Guthrie still there. Meredith trying to spoil the party for Ben Gregory, who wants to bring home an overall podium alongside what will be his victory in the Prime class. But therefore, all Meredith's got to do now is find a way through as he finds a way to almost hit that outside wall coming out of turn number 4, but doesn't quite do so. That was very hair-raising there, I'm not going to lie. I thought he was going to hit the wall, and as they head up the rise towards turn 6, all flashing their lights there, all trying to distract each other, alternatively all aware they're on camera and very self-conscious. But either way, as they come on down, we're going to go for the former rather than the latter. Well, there's no change between as they head in towards that braking zone, and right now Meredith thinking about it, as is Guthrie, but I don't think there's going to be an opportunity. But meanwhile, well, speaking of opportunities, after going from 38th to 15th in what was race number 2, Andrew Pike makes his way to the line. I don't think you can quite believe it, because he takes victory in race number 3 here by an absolutely unfathomable 6.1 seconds over Joe Doble, who comes home runner-up. It's been a long time since we've seen him take a P2 for Doble Sim Racing. Ben Gregory will take the Prime win, and with it P3 overall for Phil TB Motorsport ahead of Alex Meredith. William Guthrie makes it 2 Phil TB Motorsport cars in the top 5, and then it will be Isaac Doble comes across the line P6 ahead of Ben Altrier, Jaroslaw Cebula, Benjamin McCluskey and Jamie Dory. Best of the rest goes to Lee Horn in P11 ahead of Sam Van Olst, who is your runner-up in the Prime class ahead of Lewis Delmont, and in the AM class he makes it 2 and wins out of 2. It's Jonathan Collins for NXTGEN Orange Whiskey Runners who makes it 2 and wins out of 3 as a result. I should say 2 and wins back to back, with Marcel Fritsch with second place in the AM class. The Rhino Academy driver will be absolutely jubilant with that. And I believe, unless I'm mistaken, that's Sean Doble's first ever AM podium for 88 Tech Racing on his return to the racing after missing a couple of rounds. Well, what a pleasant surprise there for the 159 driver in the fact by bringing home that result, well, he's taken another step further forward and he'll be absolutely chuffed with that. We've still got some drivers to finish this race, including Lewis Mason, ladies and gentlemen, as he comes across the line. P6 in the AM class there for Aztec Racing. No, this is going to be a hammer blow to his pursuit of Muscle Fridge in the AM Drivers' Championship. And we do have our last finisher there on the lead lap, Kieran Smart, after that huge misfortune coming down and the start-finish straight in that battle in amongst himself and the AM drivers, and it all went wrong right at the end. But whereas it went wrong for Kieran Smart, it went very right for Andrew Pike, and as he heads in towards what will be the pit lane, well, I can see that Average Sharpie in the YouTube chat saying Fish on top, and will Pike taking the nickname of Fish amongst his peers, given the fact his surname in reference to what is the type of fish. Right now, as he makes his way on down, he's absolutely landed a huge catch here today, and that is the point for the victory in race number 3. And it just goes to show you never give up because you never know what can happen. And Ben Gregory the same there. Third place overall, but the Pro-Am win. I mean, you couldn't ask better for Ben Gregory as the rest of the field now makes its way to the pit lane. And as it does so, also there, shout outs to some other drivers, including Sammy Ariba taking P5 in the AM class there, P27 overall. And what definitely has continued to be a challenging race or set of races, the Quartermass Motorsport driver, but enjoying himself out there and fighting hard, and in the end making sure to split the Aztec Racing drives of Gabriel Yilmaz and Lewis Mason. But that concludes our drivers heading all into the pits, and without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it means it's now time for our race results, subject to any stewards' inquiries. And here they are for your final race of the day in round 9 of NXTCC Season 8, as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform known as iRacing and powered by Doble Motorcycles. And it was Andrew Pike who took the victory there for the Sim Racing Collective by 5.5 seconds over Doble Sim Race's Joe Doble. We then saw Ben Gregory complete the overall podium there for Full Tilt Motorsport, but more importantly for him, a prime win that keeps his title hunts alive. And coming back to Joe Doble, what a drive to P2. The member of the Doble Sim Racing team who really hasn't quite been there compared to his teammates, but when it matters most, he's delivered here, and that P2 will be very much appreciated by the team in their hunt for the run-up spot in the team's championship. Alex Meredith, P4 there for NXTGEN Orange Whiskey Runners, returning to great form once again, and in the end holding off William Guthrie by 3 attempts. The Full Tilt Motorsport driver huffed and puffed, but he couldn't find a way to blow down the defences of Alex Meredith. Isaac Doublefish P6 there, indeed a double top 10 for Double Sim Racing. The number 65 driver, the best part of a second ahead of Full Tilt Motorsport's Ben Altria. And it was the trio of NXTGEN Pinks, Jaroslaw Cebula, Benjamin McCluskey and Jamie Dory to complete the top 10, with Cebula taking a key result there in order to just give himself a little bit of leverage back versus Mikey Doble going into the season finale. Best SP11 was Lee Horn for NXTGEN Orange Whiskey Runners ahead of Goldwyn Motorsport's Sam Van Olst, who was your runner-up in the Prime class in this race. And I do believe Van Olst may have taken the lion's share of the Prime points over the course of the races today. He's had a very strong day, has the Belgian driver. Lewis Delmont was P13, third place finisher in the Prime class. A great day for the SO NXTGEN Gold driver as well, and Father Adam will be absolutely pleased to punch with that. With Wayne Douglas P14 for Douglas Motorsport, and Mikey Doble there round off the overall at top 15 with a 15th place for Double Sim Racing and 9. This race didn't quite go the way it did in races 1 and 2, but to be fair, if anything, all it'll do is cancel out the successes of races 1 and 2, and he won't mind that, given he'll take an absolutely comfortable advantage into the season finale. Wojciech Swiatek finished P16, exactly where he started for Semper Racing, not really making too much progress and battling hard behind Mikey Doble. Within what was 4 seconds to Jonathan Collins, 17th place overall, but for the NXTGEN Orange Whiskey Runners driver, more importantly, an AM win to make it 2 out of 3 here. We then did see your top 20 completed by Nick Clibbins, Sam Smith, and behind the 2 iRace esports drivers, your second place AM driver Marcel Fritsch, who with that second place in the AM class, 20th overall, with the Varno Academy driver will know it might be just a formality at Bathurst to take the AM title. Sean Doble completed a run to P3 on the AM podium there, P21 overall for 88 Tech Racing, his first AM podium. He'll be absolutely over the moon with that. And it was Michael Lees, Duncan Rise, Alan McCain and Stuart Winers to complete the top 25 in a frustrating final race of the day for Track Scotland. None more so than Stuart Winers, who was of course for a prime podium, to really offset all the difficulty of races 1 and 2, but in an instant down into turn number 9, completely tipped the apple cart over, and Winers now will know that going into the season finale, he won't have the gap he coveted going into today. Gabriel Yilmaz finished P26 ahead of Sami Ariba, with Lewis Mason ahead of what was none other than Kieran Smart and Kevin Smith to wrap up the top 30. And again, misfortune for Kieran Smart there in a separate incident down the start-finish straight with only a couple of laps to go. Track Scotland really finding out that Sandown has been their bogey circuit for this season. Kevin Smith in P30 was the first of our drivers to finish a lap down, and it was also a lap down to Tom Davidson, Gavin Gardner, Andy Fox and Dylan Hunter. 2 laps down to Mark Sykes, 3 down to Craig Tillerson, and then we did have 2 retirees in this race. And Callum Murray and Dan Mould with the SO NXTGEN Gold drivers having a difficult end to their proceedings here in round number 9 of the championship. So 38 starters, 36 finishers, of which we did see 29 finish on the lead lap, ladies and gentlemen. And that concludes all of our racing for round number 9. But it doesn't conclude all of our racing in Australia because, of course, in a week's time we head to Bathurst for what will be our season finale. But as well as that, it doesn't quite conclude our broadcast for today because shortly we're going to be bringing you our post-round interviews with our volunteer drivers. They'll be coming up in approximately 10 to 12 minutes time, so don't go anywhere if you don't want to miss them. But in the meantime, do feel free to let us know in your respective stream chat, whether it's on YouTube, Facebook or Twitch, what have been your favourite moments of the racing today and what we can expect in a week's time at Bathurst, or at least what you're expecting in that season finale. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you again very shortly. If you are looking to buy your next two-wheeled machine or ATV, why not consider Doble Motorcycles? Home to an expansive full range of Honda motorcycles, scooters, off-road bikes and ATVs, Doble Motorcycles is the UK's leading Honda motorcycle dealer. However, do not just take our word for it. Having won numerous awards over the years, including 3 Motorcycle News Dealer of the Year awards, and being nominated for many more, including Honda Dealer of the Year 4 times, the Doble family-run business prides itself on customer service, and it shows. Add to this the family's rich racing history through 3 generations, as currently embodied by Mikey Doble Racing, with Mikey chasing glory in the BTCC, and you can be certain that you will receive excellent customer service from lights out to checkered flag. So if you'd like to know more, check out their website today at doble.co.uk. Speaking of Mikey Doble Racing, if you'd like to support Mikey as he pushes it to the limit out on track, you can do so by following the Mikey Doble Racing Facebook page as seen on screen. Additionally, if you want to represent the 88 Army at a BTCC weekend, Mikey Doble Racing has some fantastic merchandise available just for you, as may be found either via the Mikey Doble Racing Facebook page or alternatively in the Doble Motorcycle store at dobledirect.co.uk. Don't miss out on being a part of the 88 Army today. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time for our post-round interviews of our volunteer drivers. And today we've got two drivers who've offered up their time to us, and we apologise for a slight delay in bringing these interviews, but we've managed to wrangle a couple of drivers. We're going to be starting off with our pro-class driver, Andrew Pike for the Sim Racing Collective in the 57, who, after difficulties early on, proved that sometimes it's about sticking in it to win it. That's exactly what he did to earn his place at the top of the field in race number 3. And then be hearing from our 888 racing driver from the AM class, Sean Doble, who brought home what was his first AM podium of the season and was right in the thick of the AM battling from start to finish. But without further ado, joining me in the interview room now is none other than Andrew Pike. Good evening to you, Andrew, and well, what can I say other than if we ever needed a driver who embodies the spirit of never give up until the final checker flag, you demonstrated that today to go from what was a nightmare qualifying in race number 1 all the way through to that drive to P15 in race 2 and then to take victory in race 3 as aided by the reverse grid. I mean, it must have been a roller coaster for you.
I don't know why I do it to myself, mate, to be honest. If I wasn't already bowled, then I think the rest of it would be gone with the problems I've had this evening. But race 2 was what turned that around for me. It's thankfully they held the grid for me to reconnect there. That was the saviour for me getting through the pack. But quali in race 1, yeah, it couldn't really have gone any worse, to be honest, could it?
Oh no, it couldn't have, by the looks of things. I mean, as far as your season's gone, given the fact you're chasing the top 3 as well, but what happened in qualifying? Because it just looked as though things did not click together in qualifying.
I just can't. I think I've mentioned this before. I cannot qualify the car when it's heavy. You've probably noticed the pace difference for me between quali race 1 and race 2. I know the track changed, but I really struggle with the heavy car, and others can do it. Cebula's got the car, you know, on the second row there with more weight than me. It's a problem my side. I'm just struggling to find a way to get the most out of it when it's slow, and that's probably going to bite me next week as well. I've seen the provisionals and I will still be carrying P3 weight by the looks of it, so it's tricky, but it's on me. So it's nothing else happened around me. Nobody else gave me any problems. It's just unable to get any more out of the car, and the temperature started to go up through the session as well, so most people's times were good early on, and then that was it. Bit of a disaster, to be fair.
Well, it may have been a bit of a disaster in qualifying, just not able to switch things on, and as you mentioned, this has been a common theme, but still, going from qualifying then into race number 1, I mean, it all went wrong before you'd even travelled 100 metres down the start-finish straight. I heard there was connectivity issues, and in the end, you had to essentially restart the race from the pit lane almost.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. There's been a small update today, and I think it's given me some sort of technical problem. It happened in race 2 as well. Thankfully in race 2 it happened just as we were gridding, whereas in race 1 it was just before the lights came up. So I don't know what you could see, but for me everything disappeared. I was unable to move the car, had to tow it to pits, and then wait. It took me about 6 laps to reconnect, but I thought, well, I'll go back out, because if anybody doesn't finish, I could pick up a position or 2, nudge myself a bit further forward. But that never happened, but as it happens, that was a blessing in disguise, as I found myself bang in the right place at the end of race 2.
And coming on to that race number 2, you started P38 right from the back of the field at a circuit where overtaking is primarily relegated to 2 long straights and some heavy braking zones, and if drivers get it wrong, I mean, to pick up 23 places at a hard to overtake circuit, I think it's a record for the most overtakes we've seen from a driver in a single race as far as I go back for the NXTCC history books. I mean, you must be proud of the fact that you carved your way through, and to do so successfully as well.
Yeah, to be fair, it's I didn't realise it was a record, but it is satisfying. I just set myself the goal of just staying out of trouble. So seeing anybody going side by side, I would back off and make sure I got the exit to pass them. Don't recall passing many people under braking. I did bump into the back of Sam Smith a little bit going down the hill, and that was one of the only times I can think of where I was, you know, going for it under braking. Every other one I just sort of bided my time. A lot of people were very respectful, they've got their own class battles, which I'm aware of as well. Didn't push me too hard. The 2 Track Scotland cars are at the top end of the pram standing, so I knew I had to be careful around them. But they were equally as respectful. It was good from everybody involved in that regard. I just tried to keep my head down, and I knew I needed to I couldn't afford to be 23rd. Once I got there, I thought I need to keep going because the draw might not go in my favour then. But if I can get myself, you know, in and around 15th, 14th, I've got a chance of being near the front. And thankfully, you pulled the right number out of the hat.
Oh, indeed, a little bit of lady luck being on your side there to see 16 come out of the bowl and therefore put you on that front row. And something tells me as soon as you saw that and went into race number 3, the thought process was, right, I'm just going to absolutely hammer it at the start and just run away with this. There's nothing that's going to stop me.
Absolutely, yeah. I knew, again, looking at the table, I know Ben wasn't going to want to take too many risks. I mean, he's going to want an overall win, I'm sure, but he's chasing the Pro-Am title, so I knew that gave me a little bit of a safety net, but I also know I can get the Honda off the line well, which I was ahead by T1, and then it's, as you say, head down and just try and get away. There was a bit of battling behind me. I just tried to do the same lap time over and over again. I think I might have nicked the fastest lap as well because I was after those points. Just did as much as I could to try and cover off the absolute brutal loss from race 1, essentially.
Well, I'm pleased to confirm you did pick up the fastest lap in that race as well, 1:15.654, and therefore you've got those bonus points as well, and it does tee you up quite nicely going into what is our season finale, of course. In a week's time, we're at Bathurst, and as I understand it, you're provisionally P3, but it is literally 5 points between yourself and Benjamin McCluskey, and it all comes down to Bathurst. I mean, you couldn't pick a more challenging circuit to decide who's going to be the third place finisher.
No, absolutely, but it's one of my favourites. I'm sad to be carrying as much weight as I am. I think that the Audis and Hyundais are going to be quick through Sector 1, Sector 3. The Honda should be decent over the mountain, but a heavy one in race 1, maybe not so much. I think the plan will be to just not find myself in the wall in the first one. Then the final is a double points feature race, isn't it? So then there's going to be a bit of tyre management as well, and I've got a chance, but at the same time, it'll be what it'll be. It's been a really good season. I've not picked up 3 wins in a season at all. I've never picked up more than 1, and they've not all been based on reverse grid as well, which is pleasing. So for me personally, sort of improving, it's been another step forward, and wherever I finish, it's been good in that regard. But I look forward to a proper scrap. It's myself, Dory, McCluskey, and possibly, I mean, Adam Delmont's going to be fast if he's there next week because he's going to have less weight. He's possibly in with the show as well. So hopefully, aside from the top 2 battling it out, hopefully we can give the same sort of show for P3.
Oh, without question. We look forward to seeing you be one of the many drivers putting on that show in a week's time. But just before we do let you go, Andrew, I also just have to ask firstly a question. Obviously, for yourselves in the Teams Championship, it's also looking quite tasty in the fight for what is P4 there with, well, previously it was P4, but now looking more towards P5. NXTGEN Orange Whiskey Runners are breathing down your necks, and you've got Goldwing Motorsport and iRacing Esports not too far behind. Do you think you can hold on to a top 5 there?
I mean, we'll certainly try. Tom's been very solid. He came in from round 3, so I've been on my own early on due to Junior having to pull out. So if we can hold on to a top 5 when we've been sort of hampered early on, that would be good. As I say, Tom's absolutely got the pace. He's not really done much with front wheel drive before joining last season with us, and I think he's stepped forward massively. I think if he's involved for the next season, he's going to be amongst the front runners for sure. So we'll do what we can to, try and hold on to a top 5 would be nice, but again, that will be what it will be. It's we've enjoyed the racing regardless.
Well, I love to hear that, and well, we look forward to seeing what will come of the Teams Championship battle, much like your own Drivers Championship battle, and we'll see that all at Bathurst. But just before we do let you go, Andrew, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
Yeah, all you guys for running arguably the best league on the service. I certainly think it is. I can't find competition of this level anywhere else. Appreciated by all of us, and just all the boys amongst my team. We've got boys that sit in the background looking at the weather radar for us, looking at what's happening strategy wise. There's more than just me and Tom involved. Decent amount of support on the broadcast. It's all really good. So everyone involved, 10 out of 10 from them.
Well, Andrew, putting together there the fact that it's a team effort and, like you say, what goes on behind the scenes beyond yourself and Tom on the circuit. We never get to see it, but I'm sure your teammates really do appreciate the shout out and we appreciate your feedback there as well. But with that, we'll leave you to it. Hope you have a great rest of your evening after a brilliant end to your day. And we look forward to seeing what you're able to achieve and whether you can pull off that P3 in the Drivers' Championship in a week's time at the Mountain.
Yeah, great. Thanks a lot, Paul. All the best, mate.
So hearing it there from Andrew Pike, I'm very relieved, but in his own words, I don't know why I do this to myself in the fact that it all went wrong at the start. Once again, his qualifying woes striking him early and qualifying P21 or P60 in the pro class. But before he could even go racing, connection issues in race 1. The same again in race number 2, but thankfully at the start was slightly held to enable him to get back onto the grid for race number 2. But I mean, his race 1 went completely backwards and in the end wasn't able to move forward whatsoever. And by the time he did get into race number 2, where it was all about trying to carve his way through from that P38 start, which he did so admirably to move to P15, and I'm in there just about playing the numbers game and continue to move his way forward, and then rewarded with a little bit of lady luck with that top 16 at reverse grid, and after that just went for the win and never looked back, as these pictures on screen have shown. I mean, feeling about the fact on reflection he's had one of his best seasons to date, and talking about the fact picking up 3 overall wins, something he's not achieved so far, and he's going to be happy regardless of whether he takes P3 in the overall Drivers' Championship or not. But you can be rest assured, ladies and gentlemen, Andrew Pike from the Sim Racing Collective is going to give it everything in order to try and be our 3rd place finisher, and really the runner-up behind Mikey Doble and Jaroslaw Cebula. Regardless of which order those two finish in, I get the feeling that Mr. Pike's going to be wanting to be the one whose name comes next on that championship table. But now we come on to our second interview, ladies and gentlemen, and in the intervening period, we're very pleased to announce that we do have a 3rd interview lined up now in the form of what will be none other than Lewis Delmont. So we will be getting a little bit of prime exposure towards the end of our interviews today. But next up is none other than our AM driver of Sean Doble. Let's hear from him and hear about his experiences down today at what was none other than the Sandown International Motor Speedway, as he gets ready to join me in the interview room. Well, as he does so, we now bring on in Sean Doble. Good evening to you, Sean. And well, it's been a few rounds since we've last seen you on the grid, but what a way to return to the racing here at Sandown. Not only enjoying plenty of battles for what are top 5s in the AM class, but also, I believe, netting your first AM podium in race number 3. You must be absolutely pleased with how today's gone.
Yeah, Paul, I'm very happy. You know, it's been very much a tough reintroduction to TCR. Obviously, as you know, I've been mostly focused on Porsche Cup for the last maybe couple of years. Figured the opportunity came up to dip my toe back into TCR. So did that. It's been a up and down season, shall we say, between I guess setup issues, I guess a bit of argy-bargy on track, and so yeah. I think finally to have 3 clean races tonight and to wrap it off with a first podium is very good, very rewarding.
Oh, without a doubt. And, well, like you say, previously, and we've seen plenty of your racing in the Porsche Cup, and you've gradually made your way through the ranks there in other series, and you've been gradually building up as the season has gone on, even though you've had some changes along the way. But speaking of some changes, looked so qualifying was quite challenging for yourself today. A P6 in class, but a P31 overall. How did you find qualifying?
It's a tricky track to get right. You know, there's 3 big braking zones, and I think there's a lot of time to be lost, especially if you're, you know, certainly in sort of my position in the AM class where, you know, there's a slightly bigger gap, shall we say. I think my qualifying went well for myself. I think I was setting some PBs through that. Obviously, didn't really translate into I guess a big result in terms of the wider field, but in terms of the AM class, I think I was happy. I think it worked out about P3 or 4. So no, I was very satisfied, even if, you know, it was maybe not big in the wider picture.
That's absolutely fair, and seeing the bigger picture seems to be a running thing that many drivers have had today, and I am curious as to whether that's something you applied as you went into race number 1. With a P26 finish overall, a P4 in class, because it looked so a lot of pros and primes were starting to struggle, whereas you were gradually making your way forward, but I suspect having to pick your fights for the right drivers at the right times.
Yeah, I think the main thing I've learned, certainly having done this for a few years now, is you've got to pick your battles. And maybe sometimes it means I tend to bow out of intense fights maybe sooner than others would. But certainly I think if you look back at race one, I had a four-way scrap between myself and the maybe P2 through 4 in the AM class. And that was a real moment of, it was getting a bit dicey. So, back out and then see if it settles into maybe gaining a place overall.
Well, playing it smart and enjoying that fighting in race number 1. There was plenty more of that in race number 2, although this time around we saw you towards the back of a pack of cars all fighting over between 6th through to 4th and even 3rd at one point in the AM class, but the Verano Academy drivers of Craig Tillotson and Kevin Smith just staying ahead. Was that a bit of frustration in race 2? Because it looked as though there was more on the table for you there, but you just couldn't find a way through.
I think I was happy with the result in race 1, and I think that led to a bit of excitement, shall we say, at the start, where I just totally messed up my clutch, really bogged down. I think it ended up just about at the back. Maybe a blessing in disguise, because there was I think one of the Aztec cars spun off in front of me, so maybe I would have been collected in that had I actually nailed my start. But yeah, that basically just put me on the back foot, and I think the pack got away. As soon as in these cars the pack breaks away, you lose the tow. You lose the momentum, and before you know it, you're maybe just falling back. So it was race 2 was frustrating, but kept it clean. I think it still translated into a P6. So happy overall in the context of the race.
Oh, without a doubt, and I appreciate the perspective you put on that with regards to seeing it from different angles in terms of the positives and the negatives, and then coming on to a huge positive in race number 3. I mean, race number 3 was similar in a way. I saw you started perhaps a bit further back, some big shunts ahead of you, and very quickly you found yourself on the back of the pack all chasing what was P3, and then suddenly multiple drivers ejected out of that battle, and you just happened to be in the right place.
I think this goes back to picking your battles, and I think really just I'm I suppose quite a defensive driver, so really just approaching things with caution. That I think that translated into running certainly at the end of lap 1 or 2. I think it was P3 or P4 running behind Fritsch. There was a bit of an incident which I think just bunched the pack together. I was able to get a good run on Fritsch down the main straight, so I think that put me in P3 overall behind Sykes, and from there I had quite a good run. Of course, then I managed to get myself a slowdown in the exit of the chicane, which meant I had to obviously to serve that down the long straight. Fritsch got past and then killed a bit of the momentum, but no, I put myself in a good position, I think, in those opening laps that despite that, I was able to just keep it clean. And then obviously when there was a bit more kerfuffle up front, I think Sykes unfortunately got taken out, which I guess meant I benefited from getting that podium finally.
Well, you definitely benefited from a bit of carnage up front, but sometimes that's the way it does go. And to take that first AM podium must have been an absolutely satisfying feeling, as though all the hard work is starting to pay off.
Yeah, no, it's very vindicating. After quite, as I said at the start, quite a frustrating season between technical issues at home, between internet and rig and I guess computer performance in that first round in Canada. To finally end up in the position where things seem to just work tonight. Kept it clean, and it thankfully paid off with some big points on the podium. So no, thrilled.
Well, speaking of big points, the points you've taken today, and in fact, looking back here, you are one of the highest scoring drivers in the AM class for this round. It moves you into P10, and you're not far off of Dylan Hunter and Craig Tillotson in the battle for P8. We wrap up next week at the Bathurst circuit. Do you see yourself as a bit of a king of the mountain and perhaps moving even further up the order to wrap up the season?
Well, again, I think this is where my defensive kind of just, playing it safe kind of approach probably helps me a little bit. I've done quite a lot of driving on Bathurst, but not in these cars. So the mountain's going to be, I think, dicey to say the least. You know, I think we'll just see how it goes. You know, it's an endurance race, 60 minutes. It's going to be I think, a battle of fatigue. You know, battle of wits up the hill. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how we get on, but hopeful for a good result.
Well, we look forward to seeing what you're able to achieve in a week's time. But with that, Sean, just before we do let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose as usual, thanks to my wife for putting up with my Tuesday night hobbies, and I guess shout out to the other 88 Tech guys who are currently racing in another league. So you know, big shout out to Glenn and Ali.
Well, Sean, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join me in at the interior. Congratulations once again on your performances and your return to the grid, and most importantly, that first AM podium in race 3 of the day. Long may they continue, and we look forward to seeing what you can achieve at Bathurst. But until then, have a great rest of your evening.
Just Paul.
So hearing it there from Sean Dowie, the AM driver at Tech Racing, who through it all in the end has found his way back to the grid, and in doing so, well, he's had a great day today and one of his most successful rounds of racing in the season so far. And those technical issues haven't dampened his enthusiasm, and I can tell you one thing, off of the back of this, well, I think he'll look to try and carry that momentum forward into our season finale. And regardless of where he finishes, I think it's been a great development experience for the Scotsman, and he will only be looking upwards as he heads towards what will be the end of this touring car campaign, and wondering what could lie in the wake of what is beyond season 8. And of course, we'll reveal more about that at the end of next week's broadcast. But now, ladies and gentlemen, we come on to our third and final interview for today, and we're going to be hearing very shortly from Lewis Delmont and his experiences and what have been a strong performance, no doubt about it, for Lewis Delmont all the way through today, albeit a race number 2 perhaps leaving a little bit to be desired compared to other circumstances in races 1 and 3, but still on the whole channeling an absolutely brilliant amount of energy today, and where it all began, of course, with an absolutely dominant run in qualifying. But as he joins me now in the interior, and we spoke to him earlier, we speak to him again now. Good evening to you once again, Lewis. And now that all the race has concluded, I have to ask, how are you feeling after taking a win, taking a 3rd place, and also a 6th place, albeit perhaps that was a speed bump along the way, but Sandown being perhaps one of your strongest rounds of the season?
Yeah, I'm happy with the results. Happy with the pace. Not happy with some mistakes that I made. Apologies to any drivers involved. But yeah, good night overall.
Oh, most definitely. And we talked earlier about what was your performance in race 1 and qualifying. I mean, in the end, everything seemed so hooked up in qualifying. When you reflect on it now, I mean, was there anything more you could have done out there to qualify even higher than P9 overall and on pole in class?
If I'd have got a good tow, I was towing around behind my teammate Dan Mould, but we just couldn't get a lap together. Otherwise, I think I would have gone a bit higher, but can't complain about a P9 overall and a P1 Pro-Am.
No, very true. I don't think you can complain. And then looking back on race number 1 as well with the P9 overall and P1 again, now let's come on to perhaps one of the more interesting parts. We saw in the early stages you play a little bit more of a passive style of driving in terms, I think you were more focused on bringing home the class win than anything else. But you found yourself towards the end with Sam Van Olst very quickly converging on you. How did that feel in the cockpit? Because I could imagine at one point you're thinking, you know what, this is looking like a cruise, and then suddenly, wait, where did Sam come from?
He came up quite fast, but I didn't really have any worries because I was so close to the pack in front with Benji and Tom. I think that's the reason he caught up so quick. We're having a good battle in front, and then obviously from the slowdown that causes, he caught up. But I managed to pull away again, and yeah, definitely kept me looking in my mirrors though.
Oh, without a doubt. And I think there were a couple of moments where he was thinking about potentially making the move, decided against it, given he was on course for some of his best performances of the season. But coming back to you, I'm going into race number 2. Race 2 didn't quite work out the way you wanted it to, and I get the feeling there was a bit of a moment with the gravel.
Yeah, so I'd put the new weight setup on and didn't change my brake bias down to my normal settings. which definitely threw me off through all the braking zones, and I ended up catching myself out going into the fast left-right, and yeah, ended up in the gravel, rejoined in like P21, and then got pushed out wide again, trying to hold position, and then ended up getting a slowdown. So not a great turn of events, but still managed to P5 out of the misfortune. P6 even, sorry.
No, absolutely fell though. It may have felt like a P5. I can understand why you'd say a P5. Although I have to also ask, now that you've had a whole race with that success ballast in the car, I mean, if you get the opportunity to run it again in the future, are you going to be feeling a bit more prepared for it now, or is it going to be one of those things that you're going to dread? Because I know some drivers think, you know what, I don't want the weight in the car wherever possible.
It would be nice to not have the weight, but with good results comes the weight, so I'm not going to say no to that. I think performances with weight will be better in the future if I actually remember to change my brake bias.
Well, that's absolutely fair. You may have to just give yourself a quick reminder about that. But let's remind ourselves as well of your race 3 performance. Having started what was P23, you weren't in the reverse grid, albeit you had the opportunity to be, but the number 23 wasn't drawn. So you had to do things the hard way. And it looked so early on, you were going about that pretty quickly, immediately going in the attack. And by the end of lap number 3, already up into P17.
Yeah, I was definitely on the attack. I didn't want to wait around. I ended up having a collision later on in the race with, I think, Alan McCain, and it ended up taking Stuart Winus out as well. That was really unfortunate. But overall, again, happy with race 3 other than a few minor mistakes that'll be sorted afterwards.
Well, that's absolutely fair and a good assessment there. And to take a P3 in race number 3, I mean, you're quite close in the end to chasing after P2, but it's been one of your strongest performances of the season. We keep saying that you're going from strength to strength each round. And it does mean now you've moved into in the Pro-Am Championship provisionally, I believe at P7. You're right in the thick of it in the potential hunt now for a top 5 finish at the end between yourself, Russell Fowler, Michael Lease, Alan McCain and Matthew Cheverton. I mean, surely a top 5 now has got to be the dream.
Definitely. I never expected this out of my first season, especially being thrown into Pro-Am, but I'm definitely not complaining and excited for the next round. I enjoy Bathurst. I've got good pace around Bathurst. Yeah, hoping it all goes to plan.
Well, we've got our fingers crossed for you as well that the plan can come to fruition. And just a wider question on the Teams Championship. I mean, I know you're one of many drivers at SO and NXTGEN Gold, but how are you guys feeling given the fact that it looks as though now NXTGEN Pink may have wrapped things up, so it's all about the hunt for P2. You guys are the best part of 170 points of a Doble Sim Racing, but you've got full Tilt B Motorsport hot on your heels. It's a three-way fight. Do you think you can do it? Do you think you can take P2?
Hopefully. With the absence of my dad and Sam today, we definitely didn't get as many points as we could have got. But hopefully at Bathurst we pull through. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be possible to beat the Dobles. They're just too consistent, but hopefully we can hold on to P3.
Well, that's definitely a target worth fighting for, and well, we'll look forward to seeing whether you guys can do that and hold on to that third place spot. But just before we do let you go, Lewis, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
Yeah, I'll give a shout out to NXTGEN, obviously, SRL, yourself, and everyone that supports our team.
Well, Lewis, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join me in the interview room once again. Congratulations on your performance this day, especially that absolutely standout performance in qualifying in race 1, and also that fight back to a podium in race number 3. We look forward to seeing you out on track at Mount Panorama in a week's time, but until then, have a fantastic rest of your evening.
Thanks, Paul. You too.
So hearing it there from our final interview of today, ladies and gentlemen, Lewis Delmont, the prime driver there, who just continues to rise up through the ranks. And you can hear it in his voice. I think part of it is he's very happy with how he's performing, but another little part of it is he just can't quite believe how it's all gradually coming together in his first ever season in the NXTCC. And well, it is proving time and time again that if you just approach each and every race with that open mind and give it your all, at some point things are going to click. And we saw that today, straight away from qualifying and going into race 1. And the fact taking pole and holding on to victory and not feeling too phased by the charge of Sam Van Olst behind. In race 2, things didn't go quite right, and in the end having to deal with that maximum success balance for the Pro-Am class for that 32.5 kilograms and not getting the brake bias set up correctly, and in the end that coming back to bite him on what is the braking backside. But still, learn from that experience and we'll now know for next time, and then race number 3 we'll use that as an opportunity to fight his way through. Yes, there were some altercations, but in all of it, enjoying the racing and returning to the podium once again. And I suspect Lewis Delmont could spring us a few surprises at Bathurst. I wouldn't be surprised if he potentially tries to go for a double podium, if not tries to put at least 1 win in that, if not 2. But of course, that's something we'll have to find out when we get there next round. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up our interviews. So we've heard just now from Lewis Delmont in the number 23 for SL NXTGEN Gold, the Pro-Am class. Prior to that, we heard from our 159 driver in the Am class, ATIT Racing, Sean Dobe. And then first and foremost, we heard from our Pro class driver for the Sim Racing Collective, Andrew Pike, in the number 57. Congratulations to all 3 of them on their fantastic performances, and a huge thank you to them all for joining me in the interview room. But with that, of course, it is now time for us to give you an update on the Provisional Championship standings heading into our season finale, and starting off with the Overall Drivers' Championship. Well, there it is, ladies and gentlemen. The gap: 1,002 points to Mikey Doble, 919 to Jaroslaw Cebula. It's not quite over. There's a drop scoring effect, but what it means now is Mikey Doble just needs to bring home a good set of results in the 2 races at the mountain. Meanwhile, for Jaroslaw Cebula, nothing less than ultimate victory in those races will do in order for him to take the title and prevent Doble from making it 4 NXTCC titles. Meanwhile, in the battle for P3, it's Andrew Pike who holds on by a sliver of 5 points over Benjamin McCluskey, with Jamie Dory a further 20 points behind in what is a growing 3-way fight for 3rd place. Adam Delmont not on the grid today, but hopefully back in a week's time. It does mean he falls to P6 and is on equal points with William Guthrie as they both fight to try and make the way back into the top 5 before all is said and done. And it's Isaac Doble ahead of Dan Mould, with Ben Altrier holding on to P10, but again only by the best part there, 27 points over Gavin Gardner, who is looking for a late resurgence. Lee Horn sits in P12 after a great set of results, and he's the best part now of what is 23 points ahead of Alex Meredith. Then you have Nick Clibbins, followed up by Ben Gregory, the only Pro-Am driver who is in the top 15 of the overall Drivers' Championship standings, and will want to keep it that way before the season is done. And then coming on to the Pro-Am class, and here we can see all the points adjusted. Stuart Winnis leads, but look at the damage that has been done as a result of things going wrong in race number 3. What was looking to be a gap that could have been held at approximately 50 points has now been slashed all the way down to 21 points, and Ben Gregory now can find the belief in the fact that he might be able to make the steal of the season and take that Pro-Am crown off of Stuart Winnis. He's got to believe in it surely, but the Track Scotland driver's not got to give up hope yet and not think this is slipping out of his hands. Sam Van Olst, meanwhile, holds into P3 ahead of Kieran Smart. He's moved his way back ahead, 14 points between the 2 of them in their 2-way fight to be the next runners-up. Michael Lee sits P5 and 852 points, neither here nor neither, with Russell Fowler not on the grid tonight, falling to P6, but we're looking to come back strong to make sure it's a top 5 finish for him ahead of Lease. And then we have Lewis Delmont, who has leapt his way into P7, and now arguably is just as much a candidate in the top 5 fight as is Fowler, as is McCain 4 points behind him, and Matthew Sheraton, who is a further, what is there, the best part of 19 points back. Reese Watts sits in P10, no points scored today, not being on the grid, 767 points, and he's under threat from Sam Smith, who's best to P11, only at what is there 9 points between the 2 of them. Next, Duncan Rise ahead of Sam Bradley, with Jake Pitt and James Massersgow completing the Prime top 15. Then coming on to the Am class, and here we can see Marcel Fritsch right now. It's practically a formality with an advantage spanning the best part there of what is 129 points when I do my maths correctly. All Fritsch needs to do is bring home 2 decent results, and Lewis Mason will not be able to mathematically overhaul him. Instead now, attention turns really to the battle for the runner-up spot. Will it be Aztec Racing's Lewis Mason, or will it be the same team's Gabriel Yilmaz who takes that accolade? Jonathan Collins is a bit of a stretch away, the best part there of a further 50 points behind. Arguably on paper, if his 2 rivals have an absolute nightmare of a day in the season finale, he could still P2, but then again, it's a far-flung dream, or is it? Well, he's the one who can decipher that, with Mark Sykes in P5 there on 808 points, moving ahead of Sammy Ariba after a good set of results, but both drivers missed out on some key points given the way things went in respective races. And it's Eduardo Gonzaga at P7, not on the grid today, who's being followed up by Craig Tillerson, Dylan Hunter, and Sean Dobe, with Dobe completing the top 10. First time he's been in the top 10 all season. There's Josh Brown P11 ahead of Andy Chell, with Kevin Smith, Callum Murray, Jonathan Berry and Gabriel Papaconstantou completing the AM Championship standings. But then coming to the Teams Championship, well, I'm pleased to announce, ladies and gentlemen, with a 432-point advantage going into the season finale, I do believe that NXTGEN Pink have wrapped up the title with a round to spare. We will get that confirmed at the start of next week's broadcast, but we do believe mathematically now that advantage is insurmountable, and NXTGEN Pink have become 5-time Teams champions in the NXTCC, and that consistency is something to be absolutely desired by everybody else on the grid. So in turn, what it will mean is that Doble Sim Racing now will need to hold on to P2. On paper, it looks straightforward, given the fact they have a 170-point advantage over SO and NXTGEN Gold, but as we've seen today, anything is possible in the NXTCC, and they'll be very wary of that. The main theme will be the battle for P3 between SO and NXTGEN Gold, Full Tilt Motorsport, given the fact there's only what is there 37 points between the two teams, and also the fight for P5, which has tightened massively between the Sim Racing Collective, NXTGEN Orange Whiskey Runners, and Goldwing Motorsport. But let's not forget Iris Esports, Track Scotland, and Aztec Racing are all just within arm's reach. Indeed, this is going to be a Teams Championship top 5 that is going to be uncertain all the way to that final checkered flag fall-in. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show and you want to know more about the NXTGEN Racing community, we definitely recommend you check out firstly our official website, that's at nextgenracing.co.uk. As our website appears on the screen, there's never been a better time to become part of the NXTGEN Racing community, given the fact it's the home of clean and fair sim racing for all, and we'd be very happy to have you join us. And on there as well, you can find out all the details of our ongoing and upcoming series and how to join the official NXTGEN Racing Discord to get to the beating heart of the community. But if you don't want to go to our website, perhaps you're more of a social media person, we could always recommend that you come to our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/NXTGEN Racing. Well, there you can see a little bit more about the guys and girls behind the scenes that make up the staff and admin teams at NXTGEN Racing, including what they do not just on the virtual circuit, but also on the real life circuit, where a number of our staff members and admin members being real life racing drivers, alternatively real life track marshals, and work behind the scenes in motorsport. I'd also like to take a big moment to say a thank you to our sponsors that do include PowerMaxed, Next Level Racing, Mark Sykes Designs, Joyce Design, Douglas Motorsport, Sam Cases UK, Only Racing, Falconer PC Builds and Support, Benji Sim Photos, and last but not least, our title sponsor for this season, Doble Motorcycles. For if you are looking to buy your next two-wheeled machine or ATV and you want it to be powered by the power of dreams that Honda is known for, then why not consider Doble Motorcycles, the UK's leading Honda motorcycle dealer, where you'll receive excellent customer service from lights out to checker flag through a family-run business that puts customer service right at the heart of what it does best. If you'd like to know more about Doble Motorcycles, do check out our website today, and that's doble.co.uk. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for us to check out the Sandown and check in to Mount Panorama, because in a week's time, on Tuesday the 11th of February, save the date, we bring the curtain down on Season 8 of the NXTCC. 9 rounds are played out. They brought us to this point, and our Overall Drivers' Championship, our Pro-Am Drivers' Championship, and our AM Drivers' Championship, they are all still open and all still to play for. But who will be crowned champion on the mountain? It could be a very different name than who becomes king of the mountain, but we will only find out there at the Mount Panorama Motor Racing Circuit. You've got to be there to see how it all unfolds on Tuesday 11th of February. But until then, we've been NXTGEN Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, as always, remember to stay on track. Good night. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, that's all from us here at NXTGEN Racing, the home of clean and fair sim racing for all.